Welcome to a special presentation of The Hard Rock Show. I'm Andrew.
I'm Mick.
I'm Dave.
Thank you all so much for joining us. Make sure you do like, follow, subscribe, all the usual things, the details you need for all that are in the description of this episode now, whether you're watching or listening later on. Thank you for taking the time. Please check out our fantastic sponsors as well. Squidding, Shrimping, Alt Cult and Rockstar Finance. Their details, just like ours, are in the description. Now we're here this time around to talk about the mighty Motley Crüe. So yeah, we've got 9 albums to get through. We're going to talk about, obviously, Too Fast for Love, Shout at the Devil, Theatre of Pain, Girls, 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 Dr. Feelgood, Motley Crüe, Generation Swine, New Tattoo, and Saints of Los Angeles. We'll do our best 15 songs. We'll rank the albums in preference as well individually. We've also got an audience choice feedback section for that as well, which is a bit of fun to get through there. And just generally speaking, we'll do one of these things like we always do, have the special episode. Give us your thoughts as you watch it and let us know what you agree or disagree with, because this band, judging by the audience feedback we've had so far, will generate some very different opinions out there with different albums from choice to choice. It'll be different amongst us. I'm sure it'll be different out there amongst you. Take it with a grain of salt. It's all a bit of fun for us here. So we'll do some breaks in between too. We've got some stuff where we're trying to get people to, like, that can't be with us tonight, of the crew, to send in their thoughts. There's some big fans, like Jody's a big fan, and Nicky is as well and stuff, and I think Nick's got some stuff he'd like to send through. So we've got some people to send in some stuff. We're doing a TV version of all this very soon too, which I think last time around we got people to give their thoughts on the band in general, so we'll get some people to do that tomorrow night as we do the TV side of things. But as always with these ones, we start with our opening thoughts on the band. And Mick, it's been a little while for you, just a little while.
Yes, yeah. In the summer of 2018 was the last time. It feels that way anyway, doesn't it? Yeah, opening thoughts. Well, this is a band for me now. The beauty about doing these things is you go and revisit albums and bits and pieces, and you think back to when you first heard it to where you are now. And a lot of albums I haven't actually heard in its entirety until recently, again, because I was just one of those kids who just thrashed all this kind of stuff. And, you know, enjoyed going back to it, and it does sort of conjure up a lot of images and where you were at in that particular time. It was enjoyable, but when you go back to it and you sort of, obviously you grow as a person and bits and pieces, sort of some bands really do fit an era. Yeah. And this band, I think, if they had started 4 or 5 years into this era, I don't know if they would have been as big as, because they're one of the forerunners, you know, of this kind of style, the early 80s sort of glam rock metal thing. I really think they just fused it really well together from the beginning. Yeah. And that's what really set them apart from all the antics outside of, you know, which they were sort of known for and all that kind of stuff. I really think a lot of it had to do with when they started, not supposedly the body of work. But no. That's where I'll leave it at this point in time. Cool. So I don't want to throw all my cards out there. So.
Before Dave, we do know that we're not covering absolutely everything. There's compilations and bonus songs and EPs, and we're not touching any of those things. We figured the band did call it quits, but then decided to uncall it quits. So just in case they're doing more down the line, we're leaving ourselves.
They lost the contract. You didn't know that, did you?
What, they lost it?
Well,
they blew it
somebody shot it in their veins. You know, did something with it, you know, like, because I'm pretty sure they said the contract was, we're never going to do this again. Yeah. And they haven't done it yet. It's been 3 years of talking about it.
They blew up the contract, though. They made a big video about blowing up the contract.
Well, fuck it, you know. What does a contract mean any day?
Exactly. Not much these days. No. But just so you know, we know that this is not absolutely everything. Just so you know, we do know that in advance. We just left ourselves a bit of room to do more later on if it comes up. Sorry. Over you, Dave.
That's all good. Motley Crüe. Bunch of white trash, no hopers that had everything to gain and nothing to lose. You know, it was the excess.
That's kind of middle class America, really.
Yeah. That's a good way. In the 80s, it was all about the excess, and 4 guys set out to conquer the world, and they did. You know, for all intents and purposes, they really shouldn't have, and they fucking did. I was 10 when I discovered Motley Crüe. I still have the cassette. And, you know, it was just after Guns N' Roses, and my first batch of bands was GNR, Motley, Skid Row, Alice Cooper, Aerosmith, and AC/DC. I always go back to those bands and the albums they released in that era.
But when you look at that, it's not a bad start.
Yeah.
When you look at their careers, you know.
Yeah, they've done pretty well.
Kind of get baptized by fire when I was a little kid. And they followed up Dr. Feelgood, Decade of Decadence. So for many, many years, it was the greatest hits that I knew, because being a kid, you can't buy that many albums. You know? Yeah, so... But when you get older and you start to go back through the older albums, it's the hits that stand out. In some cases, the albums have great deeper cuts. In some cases, they don't. Yeah. So it's always good to go through that. But when you do get older and you get these albums and you listen to them over and over again, like Mick, and it depends on what frame of mind you are and what's going on in your life with this band. Yeah. Some are nostalgic, some are, it is one of those bands where you just remember where you are when you first heard it. Yeah. And I can't help getting nostalgic listening to this. So this is going to be a very fun one.
Yep. Cool. Just to get some stats out of the way, they formed in 1981. They've been doing a big 40th anniversary push this year, which is why we decided to do it, because November is the year they released their debut. November is the month, and 40 years ago they released the debut album, so good way to sort of do the circle thing here.
It's our cash grab, really.
Well, yeah, we're giving it a shot. And, what's that about? They're white trash with everything to gain, nothing to lose. That's kind of where we are.
We've lost it all, though.
Yeah, I know.
We're trying to regain something.
It's not going to happen, but we'll give it a shot. They've sold over 100 million albums worldwide already, which is fucking phenomenal. Not many bands can say that. They've had 7 platinum and or multi-platinum releases, 9 top 10 albums in the US, this is including compilations and that, 22 top 40 singles, 6 top 20 singles, books and movies written about these guys. They've got 9 studio albums, 3 live albums, 8 compilation albums, 9 video albums, 32 music videos, 3 EPs, 30 singles, and 2 box sets. With all that said, Motley Crue are a household name that probably need no fucking introduction to anyone here. This is one of those rare bands that Jody and myself both love. So this is, there aren't many times that I can sit there and go through the music and know that Jodie's going to sit there and go through it and be just as happy, because usually the stuff I listen to, she's like, could you not? I love you to death, babe, but I know how much you, especially pirate metal, she cannot stand anything pirate metal.
I'm with her on that.
Oh, come on.
But this isn't about pirate metal. But yeah, so this is one of those ones where we've gone to see them live on the last tour here, which had a particular special moment for us, because there was there's a song which I'll get to later on which has significance to Jodie, and they played it live, and that was the only time she'd seen them play that song live, which was really, really cool.
Motherfucker of the year.
No, as much as that'd be, I would fucking love that personally, but this is a band I've seen a couple of times now. Seen with Motorhead, which is another all-time favourite of mine too, and everyone likes to bang on about their live show, but I think, if we're going to talk about that for a second, the last tour, they covered it pretty well with the female backing vocals stuff. They did a pretty good job of covering it all. So if they do go on, which I'm not sure they need to, but if they do, have confidence they can cover it. Look, I got a lot of love for these guys. Generally speaking, everyone knows not everything they did was perfect. I think that any even the most biased fan will sit there and go, there's some flat moments in their career, not only the out of music stuff, but just actually in the records too. But at the same time, not many people can, not many bands, I should say, can claim the heights these guys have claimed. They became notorious, infamous, for the right reasons and the wrong reasons, and they took over the world. There was a time when everything was Motley Crue, and they spawned a whole bunch of fucking clone bands. These guys were, like you said, at the forefront of this, and then with them kicking it over, it really went into fucking overdrive. So these guys are responsible for a lot of good and bad in the world, directly or indirectly. But all that said, people that love this band really fucking love this band, and people that don't like them really fucking don't like them. So they're one of those bands that's polarising, but for me, I'm on the side of loving them. So this is always going to be a fun one for me to get through, and usually in these ones there's usually albums we don't know. This is one of those ones where I said, okay, I know most of this stuff. There's a few bits and pieces here and there, but you know most of it. So this is pretty cool. I was pretty happy to go into this, but we will take a very quick break, because like I said, we're going to try and get other people to do some stuff to send in post-production. I'll cut to one of those now, otherwise we'll be back in just a quick moment.
Yeah, well, Motley Crue for me, probably, I sort of got into the music scene in the late 80s, so the Dr. Feelgood album was probably the first one I really heard from Motley Crue. But once you start getting into that kind of music, they're one of those bands that everyone's heard of beforehand, they're notorious, so you sort of just get into them, you give them a listen. And then I went back and listened to some of their other stuff, and pretty cool. I mean, Theatre of Pain's not my favourite album, but Shout the Devil's solid, and Too Fast Love obviously fantastic. And some of the stuff they put out of the 94 album's awesome, but they're just one of those bands. They weren't the best band of the era, and they weren't most talented, but they they just put on a show. They were just a great band. They're just one of a kind style of band. So yeah, just I guess that's it with those guys. I just sort of got engaged with their music and just been a fan ever since. But yeah, good band. I don't know what else to say about them really.
We're back. Time for the first review of the evening. That is Motley Crue with Too Fast for Love. This is 10 tracks, 40 minutes for the original version. The debut album from the American band released November 1981 via Leather Records. That is that label's only release, because it was, I think, their own label at the time. Self-produced by the band at Hit City West in California. 2 singles were released in Stick to Your Guns and Livewire. This album peaked at number 77 in the US, but was certified platinum in the US in 1986. This album saw the band get picked up by Elektra Records in 1982, which led to the re-recording of some parts and a full re-release of this album. For this, we've gone with the latest available version because we've got this whole streaming services and that now. This had a few bonus tracks that also covers, so basically this fundamentally covers both versions of it overall when you sit down and go through it. Cool. Over to you.
This album is fucking great.
Straight off the bat.
Yeah. Back in the day when they were young, carefree, and not distracted by so many other things that life had to offer as they got more and more successful.
I don't know. I reckon I was semi-distracted already.
Yeah.
They ended up a lot more distracted.
I will agree with that.
It would have been fucking amazing to see Motley Crue in a club back in those days on the Sunset Strip playing these songs. Yeah. There were countless bootlegs out there, but you don't get the same.
I think they moved some 20,000 units of this one, which is pretty fucking incredible for an unsigned band back then.
Exactly. Now, a lot of people refer to this as the band's best album, and it's easy to see why. And as I said in the introduction, I knew the hits, but when I heard this, basically came for Livewire, Piece of Your Action and the title track, but stayed for Come On and Dance, Take Me to the Top and Starry Eyes, and so many other tracks. It's just a fucking album you can just put on and listen to over and over again. The guitar tone is fucking great. It's just raw and ballsy. And the songs are just made up of catchy riffs. The instrumental section in Piece of Your Action, that is an all-time fucking classic.
Yep.
It's just got that energy and it's infectious. And that scream that Vince did, oh man, I can just listen to that over and over. You got that guitar bit, and then he just comes in, fuck yeah, so good.
Dave's happy already.
Yeah, and then you see him do it live these days, and it's like, no, shut the fuck up, please, no. The musical sections that they do, they probably spent ages working out what was best because, some bands just go, okay, verse, chorus, solo bit here, but they lead into the solos in a lot of songs. You got to have that bit where they're just rocking as a fucking band. Starry Eyes has it too. That's a very cool one. And they just play really well together. They wrote good songs. Lyrically, there's so many good hooks to the songs, you can't not remember them.
Yeah.
There's so many songs that are just instantly recognizable by the opening notes.
Yeah.
A lot of these,
definitely.
They could play any deep cut off this live, and everyone's like, that's that fucking song.
The crowd will go off.
The crowd will go fucking nuts. Mick Mars, very unique style of playing. Partly might be because of his illness, maybe he was restricted, but he had a very unique feel. Yeah, I don't think it affected his hand as much, but he was an older dude too, and he was more into the blues than the other guys.
He was the old bluesy guy for the band.
And it worked as a great contrast with them. He kind of grounded them, rather than... Nicky Sixx had a lot of great ideas, and Mick Mars helped to focus it.
Bring it to life kind of thing.
I don't think this album gets the credit it deserves. I mean, everyone bangs on about great debut albums, but this one really gets overlooked. It gets overlooked in those conversations. It never gets ranked up there, but I think this is fucking great. I give it 9 out of 10. Oh man, standouts: Livewire, Come On and Dance, Public Enemy #1, Take Me to the Top, Piece of Your Action, Starry Eyes, and Too Fast for Love. Almost the whole fucking album.
Okay.
What did you leave out? Nothing.
It's probably more to the point.
For me, what I do let slide is the fact that it's the first album.
Yeah.
I don't like the production of this album.
It's
hard to listen to. Yeah. But I get where they were at and whatever else, and the songs are there. The quality of the songs for
me,
the majority,
the songs carried over the production, like the youthful exuberance made up for it, kind of thing. They were never going to fail because the way I look at Too Fast for Love and what the band, and I don't think they consciously probably didn't do it, but subconsciously happened was, okay, Kiss were this flamboyant band, we're that like that by nature, a similar sort of look, not completely the same, but they went for the heaviness and the grooves of a Sabbath. So how could it fail? It's not going to fail. These bands were too
established bands that have had massive 70s careers, these guys right at the start of the 80s, put their blend of those two bands. I hear a lot of that in this album.
Yep.
You know?
With a bit more nastiness.
Yeah. So, so the heaviness and the riffage was there, and the flamboyance of Kiss.
Yep.
How's it going to fail? You know, you had a really
especially back then.
You know, it was all the rage. While those two other bands were established are probably on the decline, you got this.
Yep.
So, and you had the songs to back it up.
Yep.
You know, the energy is really good. You can hear the beginnings of something special between the rhythm section.
Yeah.
There's a certain thing with Tommy and Nicky in particular, because Mick does some other colourful things with the guitar, but it's the drums and bass for me that when you hear them together, you know it's Crüe.
Yep.
And you don't get that in a lot of bands.
No,
you know,
Tommy's definitely got a unique style. You can tell.
Yes, 100%.
Fucking hits the hell out of it.
Yeah.
But both of them do, you know, even the way Nicky plays the bass and whatever, you hear it, you go, that's just Crüe, you know, and that's why they became what they are.
Yeah.
And actually, as the 80s rolled on, they became bigger. When you look at a band like Rat, by the mid-80s, they were on the decline. And they still put some good albums out, but Crüe went up, bands like that went down. So it was in the quality of the songs, and we'll get into, obviously, albums later on. And I thought it was really good. I liked Toast of the Town. I actually thought that should have been on the re-release. Thought it was a really good song. The alternative version of Too Fast for Love. What the fuck was that all about? Thank God they edited where they did.
With the intro.
Because that first 45 seconds,
didn't need to be there at all.
What the fuck is going on with that?
Yep.
Didn't like that. It was good to hear the extras or whatever, because I don't have obviously those of the original releases. But I enjoyed it, and like I said, it's a little underdone, but I can appreciate it for where the band's at, and everything else. Livewire, Take Me to the Top, Piece of Your Action, Starry Eyes are my standouts. I gave it a 7 out of 10.
Cool. Well, this one kicks off with a big bang. It's all about raw intensity. That's what this release is for. They've got it in spades. Talk about the production. It's a bit raw and rough around the edges.
Yeah.
It's a unsigned band, no fucking budget. They don't know what they're doing. They've got an engineer only in there with them, and they're just doing everything they can for as cheap as they can. And I think, for me, though, because the songs are good enough, you don't. In some respects, that rough and ready kind of production helps it, because it gives you more of that feel of what's happening at the time.
It just feels like four guys in a room. Yeah,
exactly.
It really does.
Yeah,
you know?
And for these songs, for the energy, for what was going on, that really clicked and worked with me on that one. I think that you can hear how green they are. There are some sloppy sections in the performances and that.
Oh yeah, you know, fuck ups.
You mentioned the rhythm section. You can tell when they're not quite on though. So, and that's not to say it's a bad thing. It's just when you actually sit down and really listen to this stuff, you go, oh, hang on. Yeah, it's fun, but you fuck that up. And
because we've been conditioned to hear music a certain way now, it's so perfect. When you go back to an older album where it was all human people doing it, you know, you don't get that anymore. Even when there are people playing it, it's cut to perfection. You know, so.
But I didn't mind that either. Like, I know that in terms of execution, this isn't the world's best executed release, but at the same time, for what it represented and for how they captured the vibe of it all, it's pretty fucking well done. I mean, it feels. I mean, Jody was watching something earlier on, and Nicky called this their glorified demo, and that's what it is. If you go into it with that mindset, this is pretty fucking impressive to do for that kind of, for what they had going for them, which was absolutely nothing. They've gone in and given it a red hot shake. This is a real party album. They've got a really, just the infectious energy on this is where I think that is saving what, the production or the performances might be lacking in. Just the energy, the intensity, the fun, the party of this.
I think you got to weigh in their age.
Yeah, they're kids.
You know, I think Tommy was 18 or something, and Nicky could have been 22. Or Mick might have been the oldest, but he was only mid to late 20s or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know.
So when you look between say 18 to say 25, it's a pretty good start. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like,
well, even you're only going to be as strong as your weakest link, and they're only that young, kind of thing. So they've done very, very well. Like I said, it's I found Public Enemy number 1 kind of thing, because that track there, you've got I don't know. There's parts of that song where there's some really like the engineer was pretty good on this one because they did some really subtle things. Like there's this little claps in that song that are back in the mix. It's really subtle, but then the cowbell just fucking is brutal. Like, I was like, fuck. I love cowbell. There's always more cowbell, but not quite that fucking loud.
That was actually 13 cowbells hit at the same time.
That was
to get that.
Pretty fucking big. It's like you've got these subtle claps, which is bang on, and then just fucking there's the cowbell.
Yeah,
it's like,
I know.
oh,
Yeah, that
fuck.
is. Yeah.
Look, but this is. It's one of those ones which I think becomes a theme a bit as we go on, but there's some really good high points. There's a few low points in this one as well, but overall it's pretty all balanced. The lows are being down to the songs, not the ability per se, and the same thing as the highs are to do with the songs. That's what it all comes down to, though. The choice of Merry Go Round as the bonus live track, I do question that one. Like, it's performed well, but it's a safe song. Like, there's no risk in that song performing it live and capturing it. So I get why they put it out, but it's like... but it's not even the best song. Not even close to the best song on this record. Way. Like, none of us have mentioned it. Merry Go Round, you can forget it in a heartbeat. Honestly, that's why I say there's some flat spots and you like go, yeah, the album's good, but Merry Go Round, like, you can hear it in your head. Okay, so I've done that part well, but that's because I've listened to it a lot. If you just put it on a couple of times and you don't...
Well, you know it's not a good song because he just says Merry Go Round and Round. Vince, you know, and he didn't even write the lyrics.
No,
like, you know. So, you know, Nicky was like, I don't know what the fuck to write here. So just keep saying that. And he goes, all right, I will. So...
The other side of the coin, though, is then you do get the songs that are good storytelling when Nicky is on with the lyrics.
Yeah. On with the Show, for example.
Yeah, that is a gem.
And when they brought that back for the reunion, fuck, that was a crowd popper, man.
Yeah,
you know,
that went off. And
I think, sorry to cut you off, and it's your time, but I have a tendency of doing this.
You haven't been here for a while.
A lot of you people probably haven't missed, but Starry Eyes, if they brought a couple of those, take me to the top.
Yeah.
Fuck, you know, like some of those songs would be,
would go off to it.
Would enjoy it, yes. Anyway, back to you.
I like the different use of tempo and rhythm on this one. They didn't just settle into the one, not one-trick ponies already. And I think that Vince, he's copped a lot of criticism over the years, but I think he does a pretty good job on this one as well. Now, On With The Show can literally show some of the deficiencies within the technical abilities of the band, but like you mentioned, that song, when they brought it back for the reunion tour, was fucking insane. And it's one of those ones where this is a sentimental pick for mine because Jodie used to listen to that song so much her nickname was Frankie when she was a kid. So that was...
Good thing she didn't die then.
No, well, that's it, I know, but I'm grateful, obviously. But that's an example, though, that every person that listens to this is going to find a different track to gravitate toward. You've got some bangers, you've got some slower stuff, you've got some good things overall in this one. The album flows nicely, it flies by. I know there's better to come, but this is a pretty good beginning for mine. I gave it an 8 out of 10. A Piece of Your Action, Livewire, Toast of the Town, and On With The Show are my real standouts on this one. So there we go. Moving on, we'll go to the next album straight off the bat, which is obviously going to be Shout at the Devil, which is 11 tracks, 35 minutes, the second studio album of the American band. Released September 1983 via Elektra Records, produced by Tom Werman at Cherokee Studios in California. 3 singles were released, including Too Young to Fall in Love and the title track. This album was the band's real breakthrough, selling 200,000 copies in its first 2 weeks. I went to peak at number 17 in the US, number 23 in Canada, has been certified 4 times platinum in the US, 3 times platinum in Canada, and gold here in Australia. Unsurprisingly, this album caused a controversy due to the imagery and the title and all that sort of stuff. And as a consequence, a lot of critics sort of dismissed this album at the time, but I think that the audience choices later on might have a bit to say about that as well. Over to you.
This is my favourite of the classic era.
Yeah.
I absolutely love this album. Cause on the back of Feelgood was the first one I think I might have got. This was the next one I got.
Okay, yep.
And I actually started listening to this a lot more than Feelgood. And,
I understand why, actually, yeah.
It's this... And we like Too Fast. We just discussed that album and thought that was a great start. But this, with Werman, whatever the fuck his name is,
straight up
producer boy, you know, helping him carve it and hone it in.
Yeah.
Not only is the production just 10 times better, but just the playing, everything's
trimmed all the fat.
Yeah, you know. you can see by doing a few live shows, and that's what happens with bands. The more you play together, the better you become in the studio. And you can hear it on this, you know, from in the beginning, it sets the tone.
Yep.
And I've said it a million times before, but I love albums that set a tone with whether it be some kind of speaking thing or a guitar interlude or something that shapes it, that is eerie and it's evil and it sounds barren, you know, it just sounds like...
And then it kicks. Like when,
you know, and then you come
comes.
into Shout at the Devil, you know, you just, it just takes off from there.
I reckon that's up there. This is going to be heresy to a lot of people. That's up there with like Bruce's Scream for Run to the Hills.
Okay.
Like it's one of those moments where you hear it and you go, you know it straight away. When that first hit for Shout at the Devil, you know what it is straight away.
There's those 3 notes that Mick does, dun, 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 you know, like it's just, okay, here we go. You know.
So good live.
And then the chant, you know, and that was another thing they did on the reunion. They opened up with that. It was just fucking brutal, you know, it just sets the tone. And that for me is if you had to show one song of a band, this one, you go, this is Motley Crue. It's embodiment.
I agree with
that. Yep. Just fantastic album. I love this album. I actually really enjoyed it again going through it the other day. I just, like I said, production, everything's just, I think the track order's really good. But there is a couple of weaker moments towards the end that have stood out a lot more to me because I haven't heard them for ages as in entirety. So, you know, 10 Seconds to Love and Knock 'em Dead Kid, they're good songs, but they do take away from, say, Red Hot and all the stuff beforehand.
See, I'm the opposite. I think Red Hot's a flat spot.
Oh, I think that's a brutal song. I think that's fucking great.
So this is why it's cool to get different thoughts on it. Yeah.
Well, that's right. It's my turn. So let me talk over you. You can't talk over me. But I did like the twist of Danger because I felt like Danger is part 2 on with the show. You know, I just feel like that's just that particular character growing up and getting into more mischief, which is what the band was doing. They were a year or 2 down the track, a little bit more money, a little bit more craziness,
more notoriety.
So
people are buying.
I just like the way. I just thought that was a real different track. And I love what Mick does in the song, solo wise and bits and pieces. A lot of good mood stuff, which I think stood out for a guitarist back then. I don't think he gets enough credit, Mick Mars.
No,
because he's actually quite good with setting moods and his
way of feel. Like he's playing with feel.
You know, you don't get a lot of that back then. They were just shredders back then. You know what I mean? I gave it. Look, I still gave it only a 7.5.
Okay.
Because the flat spots are flat.
Okay.
But other than that, I put down Shout at the Devil, Looks to Kill, Red Hot, and I love Helter Skelter. I know it's a cover. I just thought they did a really cool version of it, you know.
In the end.
Yeah.
Like
it sounds like a Crue song. You wouldn't even know, you know. So, one of those things, it's definitely a time. I think if that album had come out, say, 3 years later,
it
wouldn't have done it. It was just the right heaviness, everything was just right for that album from 1983, you know. Yeah.
Beautiful.
The only time I've ever had Jehovah's Witness knock on my door, I was actually playing Motley Crue. Unfortunately, it wasn't Shout at the Devil. It was Piece of Your Action. But if they knocked on the door when I was playing Shout at the Devil, I would have just opened up. Shout at the Devil!
I can see you doing it as well.
It would have been fucking fantastic.
I know.
It wasn't the B.
Next time.
Yeah. This album was geared at 2 things at the time, MTV and controversy. It's a darker album, and it ties in well with the whole theme. I think they did a great idea of shying away from the club scene of what they were doing and just getting something out there that would just really fuck with people at the time. You know, the casual fan of Motley Crue would think that they just released a glam metal albums, but each of the 5 albums are their own unique beast.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, very much so. The guitar tone is less raw than the debut, but still has plenty of balls, and I think Vince sounds fucking great on this album.
Yeah.
As you were saying, there are
he needs the drugs, Vince.
Ozzy did the same thing with the high notes, he did lots of drugs. But I agree there are some low spots, but my low spots are a bit different.
Okay.
I think Bastard was pretty average, and the whole little musical God Bless the Children of the Beast actually takes longer to say than the song. But I get the whole leading in, but the cover
of the album change.
Cover of Helter Skelter is pretty good, as you were saying. It's an odd place on the album, though. It could have been, I don't know. I don't know where you put it instead of.
To be honest with you, it doesn't really fit the context of the album, but it's just the way they play it.
It is a fucking good song,
you know?
If you understand, I think it made sense to them, though, because of the history of Charles Manson, which is where that's
Kind of fit.
If you take that into it, then I think it makes more sense. But
maybe a closing spot, but yeah, it just feels a little out of place if you're listening to it. But fucking Red Hot, that picks it up. There's a fucking great song. It's certainly a highlight.
Except for this guy.
We're all different. But yeah, Knockin' Dead Kid and 10 Seconds to Love towards the end, they have great choruses. But yeah, if you do stack them up against the hits, they do kind of pale in comparison. But you know, as album tracks, they're still pretty good and gives it a full great listen.
Okay.
Yeah, I also give it 7.5 out of 10. Stands with Shout the Devil, Looks That Kill, Red Hot, and Too Young to Fall in Love.
All right. We're going to get some differences now because from the start of this, like we've talked about the intro and that, but just the fucking way this opens up. Just beautiful. The tones, the textures, the production, everything is like just turn it up and it just sounds $1 million better. Shout at the Devil is an all-time classic. It's a perfect way to launch things for this band as well. The writing, performances, the production, everything. Like from that moment, you just know, okay, fuck, they're on this one. This still sounds really fresh and vibrant for a 1983 release, whereas the previous album, you can tell this one doesn't have that aging impact on it. This sounds contemporary. I think that Looks to Kill is the perfect follow-up to the opening real track here. The tempo, the groove is nailed. The couple of years, like you were saying, getting on the road, playing the shows, they're honed, they trimmed the fat, they've leaned it up, and they're just a really tight band by this point in time. The vocals are good. Everyone's just going, okay, we know how to be a band now. You got your first album, you've done a tour, played a lot of gigs, you're in the studio, go. And they nailed it. I thought whatever you could critique about the debut album was gone for this one. I really enjoyed everything about it. I think that there's little solos, the lead work that Mick does on this one with the little guitar licks and that too. He just, like I said, plays with the feel, which is really nice. But the rhythm section is tighter, the performances are bang on, there's no sloppiness. They've just got the right kind of looseness to them though, so it always feels that little bit dangerous, but it's, with Mick doing what he does on the guitar and Vince just wailing out the front, it really works nicely in the concert, really. The lyrics cut deeper, the bite on this is sharper overall, the hooks are bigger, and that's hard to pull off. When you try and combine those elements and make them bigger, and they've done all three at the same time. I thought the instrumental "God Bless the Children," Children of the Beast, was a nice little moment on there. I thought it was a nice little flip to side A, B kind of moment. And I thought that where Helter Skelter worked in the context of the album for me. I didn't have a problem with the way this thing flowed. The Too Young to Fall in Love had the groove and the sway. They started to play with that, sort of bring some swing into the songs. The last album was much more direct. This one has, they're starting to play with swing a bit. And again, with the darker tones in this, but also Knockin' Dead Kid flows on, and it's a sneaky good track for mine. I know that others don't like it. Obviously, we're going to have some different opinions here all the time, but for me, it's a sneaky good one.
Yeah, I just didn't think it was up to the same quality.
Okay, that's all right. I thought, for me...
I know it's all right.
What are you going to do about it, honestly? The overall flow and growth on this is really, really cool. They've smoked this. I think it's hard to fault. Like I said, the hardest the hardest part for me about this was Red Hot. I found it's not a bad track. It just felt like a little outlier where the rest is sort of like mini chapters inside of the overall album. I don't know. It's one of those examples where just write a good song, put it down, put the energy into it, and go. And they've done that on this one as well. I think this is, from top to bottom, a really fucking good listen. I don't have any issues with it, really. Like, I took a half point off because of that one semi-flat spot, which is not a bad song. It just didn't quite click with the others the way I would have liked. So I gave it 9.5 out of 10. I fucking really love this record. Shout at the Devil, Looks That Kill, and 10 Seconds to Love. Even though this one had a flat spot, I really fucking enjoyed that one too. Alright, we've got another one to get to, and then we'll have a quick break afterward. So let's move on to Theatre of Pain. Make sure you're giving us your thoughts out there as well. This is 10 tracks, 35 minutes, the third studio with the American band, released June 1985 via Elektra Records. Produced by Tom Werman again at 3 different studios across California. 3 singles were released, including Home Sweet Home and the cover of Brownsville Station's Smoking in the Boys' Room. The album peaked number 6 in the US and number 36 in the UK, along with top 10s in Canada and Sweden. It's been certified 4 times platinum in the US, 3 times platinum in Canada. This album was done while Nicky was spiralling deeper into drug addiction, and this also comes in the aftermath of Vince Neil's infamous crash with Razzie Dingley of Hanoi Rocks, who passed away as a consequence of that. So the the table wasn't exactly set for success.
Either was that zebra suit that Nicky was wearing there.
No, that's true.
That's a good reason kids not to do drugs. Start wearing shit like that.
Odd choice.
What the fuck was he doing? So.
Yeah, who knows? But after the darkness of Shout at the Devil, they kind of moved into the light of glam metal. But, as you mentioned, the wheels are definitely starting to fall off. Problem with this is the two best known songs on the album are a cover and a ballad. Mm-hmm. They are capable of much, much more than this. But it's not that they're bad songs, it's just you don't have that moment as a listener where you'll go, fuck, that's cool. There's no surprises, the songs are mostly the same. You know, there's no instantly recognisable intros to the songs anymore. You wouldn't get a pop from the crowd when you perform most of them. They're pretty short too. It's like they're struggling for content. Yeah. They're kind of over before they start. Too Fast for Love sound like a band who enjoyed playing music together. So did Shout at the Devil. This sounds like they had to make an album and they went in there and they did the bare minimum to scrape through. Now, Raise Your Hands to Rock is kind of a weak version of I Wanna Rock from Twisted Sister. The song just pales in comparison, but that's still one of the better moments on this album.
Okay.
Yeah, I gave this 5 out of 10. Home Sweet Home and Raise Your Hands to Rock. Smoking in the Boys' Room's okay. But yeah, okay.
Okay. All right.
Leading off that, I think they've made it a Crue song, Smoking in the Boys' Room.
They did. There's a reason why.
They gave the Crue feel, so... And I can understand why it was a single. If you look back to what they were more known for was more of their antics off the road than it was the music, you know. So
it was fitting.
The music was a soundtrack to their lives, you know.
Basically, that's the best way to put it.
Yeah, but I did see that the band was plateauing here big time, and obviously there was some stuff that we know the story of now. But at the time, you would have thought, "Geez, what's happened with this band?" And sometimes an album can be destroyed in literally 3 minutes, and I think City Boy Blues is not the right opener.
Okay, yep.
And that really sets the album in a really bad trend, because that song, I don't know, I've never gotten
the synth is weird on that,
I don't know, just the way it starts, it sounds really flat and unenergetic, and you got energy from the first two albums. So you're looking for something that hits you, and that doesn't, that song, you know?
They're better off opening with the cover if they wanted to do that.
Well, or Use It or Lose It or something, you know?
Use It or Lose It would have been better,
but it's always rubbed me the wrong way, and the production is god-awful. I'd put it almost in the same as Too Fast, and like I said, I gave that a pass. But I'm not going to give you a pass on your third album.
No, the producer of the last one as well. Same
that is just horrible. And I don't know what the hell happened. Like, he must have got on the same party drugs as they did. And they were just too hard to work with, and it's like Close Enough's good enough, because it really sounds uninspired.
It's flat.
Yeah, it just doesn't sound good at all. And I don't know if it was to do with maybe not knowing if you're going to have the same singer at that point in time, or not really and trying to write songs when you're really, really fucked up.
I think it's also a consequence of the main songwriter is the one that's most fucked up out of the lot, and so no one else can pick up the slack because they don't know how to do it.
You know, whereas, like you touched on before, Shout had an identity, and it looked like it was cohesive, and you know, the package and everything. This just was like, I got the era, like obviously, again, they were in the forefront of the colour era, or the Miami Vice era, as I like to call it.
That's a good one, actually. I like
because it's all fucking colours, and everyone was doing it. Look at Kiss Asylum the same year. They were fucking... fucking rainbows on two legs, you know? So... but look, like any good band, there is some standouts, and I actually... Look, Home Sweet Home is by itself. Let's put that to the side, but... I really like Keep Your Eye on the Money. I think that's just got a really, really good groove to that song. That's, again, the essence of that groove that the bass and drums do, especially at the end of the chorus with Keep Your Eye, it sort of rocks out, and sort of that would have been really cool to see live. Tonight We Need a Lover seems like a song that could have made Shout. It didn't. It's got that heavier, and it sort of probably doesn't fit this album, because it's a little bit on the heavier side to what this album was sort of going for, the more glam, melodic, maybe commercial, you know.
This feels like they're playing it safe.
Yeah, you know, or even Save Our Souls could have been one that could have probably ended up on... I would have preferred that on Shout.
Possibly, it would have made more sense there.
Maybe 10 Seconds to Love, or whatever that other one I said. That was...
Possibly.
Okay. Like Dave, I gave it a 5 out of 10. It has a middle good spot between Keep Your Eye on the Money to Save Our Souls. Like 3 or 4 songs in a row that I really like. Home Sweet Home, like I said, is on its own, and obviously that's what sold
That's
I
what
saved it.
Yeah.
Or, you know, but 5 out of 10 for me. Yeah, I just didn't think much of it. Still don't.
Okay. I don't think it's a bad album. It's just not knowing you're like you got two pretty fucking good ones, and this is just like, okay. It's a little bit too slick for mine. It's the synth in the opening of the album is just the wrong message to send when you're wanting to put on like I've gone through the first albums and then this comes on. It's like, well, that just fucking felt flat, you know. And that's I understand wanting to do something different, but. Yeah, if you were the ones buying it at the time in the 80s and you put it on and you're like, that's the first taste, it's like, cool.
No, I don't think City Boy Blues should have made the album. I don't think that's really... It's an okay song.
Yeah.
But it's not something that should have probably...
Yeah, I think from the opening,
you know?
you can just tell there's issues here. You can just tell this isn't... Like, where Shadow of the Devil comes on, you're like, fuck, they're on. This is like, oh.
Shit's happening.
Something's going on here. This isn't the band that you knew you were getting. You know, some credit where due though. With everything that was going on, you got your singer possibly going to jail, and your main songwriters in the depths of addiction. It's like that they got anything out at all is probably credit where due. It's just nowhere near the caliber of what they've set up beforehand for themselves. Now, again, I think there are some highs on this one, and the story of this band is a bit of, you know, there are high spots on the album and there are always low spots. It just matters how low those low spots go. On this one, they bottomed out a bit. There's no danger on this. It feels like they're painting by the numbers a little bit on here. It shouldn't be that a cover is one of the highlights on an album, but on this one, it is. Smoking in the Boys' Room. Like, I like it. I think they've done a great job of it, but it just shows you how much the other songs are lacking by comparison, and that's the one that becomes a standout element on here. Lighter Than Hell feels like it's trying to capture the past, but doesn't get there at all. It's not bad, not their best. It's just they just... It's like a car running on 5 cylinders instead of 6 kind of thing. It just feels like it's running rough. Keep It On the Money was okay, but, you know, it's a good song, but it's a safe song. Same thing with, like, Home Sweet Home, like I said, you can put that to one side because they had a redeeming fucking wow moment on this album. And I think I heard Vince Neil, Joe was watching something earlier today, and Vince said, thank God we had, you know, Home Sweet Home and Smoking in the Boys' Room because that's what saved us. Because... Yeah, there's a reason why those two songs stand out on this record the way they do. This is pretty much their first really fucking good ballad, though, and they did a really good job with it. I think the performances are pretty good. Like, the songs aren't there, but the performances are. I thought the production, it's a different tone, different style, different sound, but I thought the way it was executed worked for it. But I thought it was just a lack of imagination that hit this thing. I think that, you know, It's Not Me to Love Her is just really repetitive.
Yeah.
It was just...
I like that, though.
Yeah, I get it, but it's another version of merry-go-round in that regard. It's just repeat the line and sort of...
Oh, yeah, better riffs.
yeah, better riffs, I'll say that.
Yeah.
It's a better song than merry-go-round, but it's the same sort of mentality. It's like, let's repeat something ad nauseum until it sort of...
Kind of like the halftime breakdown.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I get it. I get why people would like it. It's a big-time 80s thing, but at the same time, it was fun but nothing new kind of thing at the same time. That said, the one thing that did stand out to me, which is a niche thing, was the harmonies on this. This is the first time they've really leaned into that strongly, and they did a really good job of that with this album. And I thought, for me, Use It or Lose, one of the redeeming tracks. The energy on that one was like, okay, cool, I can get into that song in particular.
Actually, there's some really good playing, especially by Tommy. Like, if you listen to it, you know, some of the stuff he's doing on the ride and bits and pieces, some really good patterns going on. That, they're showing off, I guess, a bit of their musicianship in that song, you know.
You can tell that all those things have grown. It's just that they haven't, for whatever reason, clicked on this one. It's a bit of a case of, the first album got them signed to a label. Yeah. Album number 2 fucking took them to the stratosphere. And then this is probably the punch in the mouth needed to say, hey, you got to keep the game going because you can't just fucking phone it in. And not that they did that per se in this one, but it feels phoned in by comparison to previous releases.
I think if you go back to the Dirt, I think they weren't ready to record.
They weren't,
They had to do it. It was just a contractual thing that, you know, they wanted to still strike where the iron was hot because
Mick
they were still pushing along pretty well.
Basically, they were the ones that pulled Elektra out of the mud financially, and so it was like what Kiss did with their label when they pulled them out of it. You want another album to sort of keep going. And it's not the first time it happened. It's the first time. It's not the only time it happened either. With later on with Karobi and that too. There's issues with forcing things to fit where they don't fit. I think it's okay. It's not terrible. It's not as good as the other ones, but it's probably not as bad as I'm making it sound. So I gave it a 7 out of 10. I picked Home Sweet Home, Smoking in the Boys' Room, and Use It or Lose It as my standouts on this one. We will take a quick break. We'll see if we get something else to put in here. Otherwise, we'll be back in just a second for you.
Motley Crue, geez, that's basically one of them and Poison, Guns N' Roses, are probably the three bands that really got me into metal and hardcore music. Seeing Motley Crue live in the Dr. Feelgood tour, that was phenomenal. I could not rate it any higher, and it just solidified my love of music. And the theatrics that come with it sometimes, all the laser beams and pentagrams and stuff going on in the concert, that was awesome. And then progressing and metal is just it's just one of those things that really bonds people together, I think. And Motley Crue is definitely one of those camaraderie brands that sort of everyone knows, everyone can sort of just have a yarn, have a laugh at them even, So, but even, it's awesome. Just love them.
We're back, and it's time to move on to Girls, 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 which is the...
It's always fun.
It is, yes. We all like moving on to girls. This is the fourth studio album of the band, 10 tracks, 40 minutes, released May 1987 via Elektra Records. Produced by Tom Werman at 3 different studios, again in California. 3 singles are released, including Wild Side and the title track. This peaked number 2 in the US, number 4 in the UK, went well in Europe, Canada and New Zealand. It's been certified 4 times platinum in the US, 2 times platinum in Canada and silver in the UK. This saw the band shift their sound a little bit more, with a bit more blues coming into things, and saw them again sort of get back up into the heights after what the last album failed to do. Over to you.
Me?
1, 2,
I'm not
3.
sure.
You go first.
Yeah, what the heck,
Doesn't matter now.
For me, same. I have the same issues with this album as I did with Theatre of Pain.
Okay.
So I don't find the band growing a lot here. When they've smacked it out of the park, they've done it big time. So the first 2 tracks could have been a double A side singles, and they'd be just amazing songs. But then there's so much crapola after that.
Yeah. Okay.
Bad Boy Boogie, Known as a Nothing track, Something for Nothing. They're all just very, if you close your eyes and you didn't know the bands the way we did, they're faceless songs. They're just fillers. Really, they are. I find they just use variations of the same riff throughout the whole album.
Okay.
That bouncy sort of notey, riffy thing was way overdone on this. I just felt like there was not really a lot of good ideas going on. I think they should have probably changed producers at this point in time.
Okay.
Yeah. And I just think they're just on the back of more of the antics of what you get at a Motley Crue show or at your local hotel than it is for the albums at this point in time. And this album here, I don't hear a lot of love for it. Because I still find it's another stepping stone, and like I said, like any good band, there's still some good songs within, so it keeps you engaged as a fan. But overall, as an album, it's not great. It's not terrible. It's not the worst thing I've heard, but it's just not a lot of growth. And I feel like between the first 2 albums and the next 2, it's night and day. Like give me the first 2 albums over these 2 any day of the week. I gave it 7 out of 10 because it's still solid. I like Tommy's playing. He was a big influence on me being a drummer. Between him, Eric Carr, and Nico McBrain, they were my 3 major guys, are probably Charlie Benanti from Anthrax. So I still enjoy that aspect. The drums and the bass of this band is always, I've always loved it. As for quality of songs, hit and miss again in this album, and the quality's vastly different. See, I would have dropped Bad Boy Boogie or Something for Nothing, and I would have added that Rodeo song. It just doesn't sound like it's finished, but it's what the album needed. That actually is quite a good track, and it breaks the album up a little bit for me because it's very samey, this album. Everything's sort of the same pace. There's no faster songs or whatever you got previous. I think it's a little overrated, this album. Still gave it a 7 out of 10.
Okay.
Wild Side Girls.
Yeah.
5 Years Dead, I've always loved that song. Something about it, I just love it.
Attitude in that song.
All in the Name Of, and I really enjoyed it when they opened it up for Moscow Peace Festival when they played that. And I don't know why they don't play it to this day.
Yeah, that's a fucking
great song, you know. And I did like You're All I Need.
That's a cool song.
And I love what Mick does in that song.
Yeah.
So, but apart from that, there's really everything else is forgettable for me.
Okay.
In some kind of way. So, but Radio should have been on the album. Should have been finished and put on there.
Yeah, it wasn't finished, but no, it wasn't a bad track though. Yeah.
Mm.
No, I get what you're saying, but I think it's a case of when Crüe do a great song, it's fucking great, and it's really up there. Like you're the 1-2 punch for the opener, Wild Side, Girls.
Yeah.
Then it kind of overshadows everything else, which it's good for any other band. It would be great, but
this is their
Crüe,
victims of their own success.
Yeah.
You
know, a lot of times you can just get a compilation album and it's their fucking best, and then when you go to the deeper cuts on the album, they're good, and you know why the singles were picked as singles because they are the ones that they show the best of what they can do. It's an ironic album considering how fucked up Nikki Sixx was at the time. They could actually get something coherent done, and this is much better than Theatre of Pain.
I think the lyrics are better on this one too. The storytelling's pretty dark.
It is, especially in You're All I Need. I love that fucking song because they did Home Sweet Home. They basically did another one, but they made it dark. They made it really fucking dark. It's like someone from the inside, locked up, reflecting, and it's such a dark story. It's very cool.
Finally made the news.
Yeah. But right from the opener, Wild Side, they sound on fire. And it does have a different mixture of songs. There's different tempos, moods, and themes. Once again, better than Theatre of Pain. So coming off that, they definitely stepped everything up. I like how they changed styles again. They ditched the glam, went for the leather and the biker image, which was a cool idea. They didn't get stuck with the satanic thing with Shout the Devil. They moved on. They kept... Image-wise, at least, they kept progressing.
Yeah, they did reinvent themselves.
It was a very clever idea, and if nothing else, for marketing. While not every song is a standout, there is enough interest and difference to make this a good listen. The deeper cuts, as I said, the deeper cuts are better than Theatre of and Shout.
Yeah.
Wild Side, that's just a fucking fantastic song. Every time it's played live, it's just holy shit.
That riff and the syncopation in that song is just the way the rhythm section and that fucking
and how it works off the Lord's Prayer. You know, how he fucks around with that. Everyone's heard that. So when you first hear this song, you can kind of identify with it.
Yeah.
And coming off Shout the Devil a few years ago, I would have pissed a few people off again. Very clever. And you can appreciate songs differently once you kind of know what they're about. After reading a lot about Nikki Sixx and knowing Nona, whatever the fuck her name is. Yeah, about her grandma. Yeah, you kind of understand why he went with that. But at the time, when you didn't know shit about his personal circumstances, it can be just a forgettable song. Yeah,
that wasn't a great choice on this record, I will say that.
But once you know, it's like, okay, I get it. It would have been a B-side. Yeah. It would have been a cool idea for B-side. Yep. But we covered the dark humour of You're All I Need. But I gave it an 8 out of 10. It's a good album. Wild Side, Girls, and You're All I Need. People often ask, some people say this is sexist. Why is it called Girls? It's because pussy doesn't fit the fucking melody as well.
That's true.
It doesn't seem to upset the girls when they're dancing to it.
It really doesn't.
No.
Yeah.
They seem to be fine with it. When
it's not insulting or anything. It's more appreciation.
About strip clubs in fucking Florida.
Well, it's not as though any of this wasn't happening. That's the thing. Like this was their life at the time.
Yeah,
so
100%.
And it's all from
narrative.
A point of appreciation.
Yeah. But it's also just pure narrative.
Yeah.
Like this is all they were doing.
Yeah. This is lifestyle.
Like I said, when you guys all came in, Jodie was watching something. She was watching a few things today. And they were talking about on this album on purpose. They went back and just sort of stripped it back and became 4 dudes that rode Harleys, drank a lot, hung out a lot of bars, saw a lot of strippers. That's all they were. That's all this album was going to be. So, for the people that don't get it, I understand why they take it the way they do, but it's just almost... They started to become almost an autobiographical band at this point, and injecting the blues, giving Mick more room to play with things was cool. And that allowed Tommy and Nikki to do some different things. Like we mentioned the syncopation before in Wild Side. Like that that's some really cool things. The snare hits and that were really nice on this one. Yeah, Nonna is an interesting one. I get it as well. It's got the mid-album break thing with the strings included, but it felt kind of redundant in the context of the overall album. But that said, it wasn't bad. It was just, okay, cool. we touched on the lyrics before. It's getting darker on this one too. I like how this one kicks off. Like we've all mentioned how well they start this album. This has that, but I liked. I know you said they should have changed producer, but I liked how, in addition to changing with the blues kind of thing, they've added different things on this one. They've got effects, not so much the synth work. They're using effects to bring the drama to the songs, like the backwards sounds and things like that are coming into it. And they're playing with the studio.
The back end of the last minute of that track.
Yeah, and they're playing with little things in this too. There's more panning, a bit more Foley in this one. There's some nice sound effects going on. Like, they're between the production and the tones, you've got this great blend of polish and grit. So they've done a really good job balancing the two sides of this band out. I think there's a whole lot of party in this album for me. There's a lot more swing than we've had before, which again ties into the bluesy kind of thing. And I like how they use swing as a general rule. So for me, it gets my attention because it's I don't know, it makes you move. To me, it goes, okay, cool, I can get into this.
That I'll give you. There's a lot more swing and sway and tempo change, but there is a big block of this album where it sounds very samey too.
Okay. I didn't quite...
So, no, you did.
Because
I said it, and you do.
Oh, okay. So. We'll go with that as a theory. I love the rhythm section of this fucking is shining. I did think that they did grow a couple of risks with this one. Like, Dancing on Glass has a brass section.
Yeah, I see that's a bit filler, that fucking song.
Is that for, but I like how it brings...
I don't mind the chick at the end. Like, it's something different. Yeah, it's kind of cool. It's different, but...
it was a product at the time, so everyone was using, like you mentioned before, everyone was going fucking hypercolour and shit, and like this is kind of like everyone's using the brass section, and they incorporated it in pretty well. They took a chance. Didn't have to do that. The last album was safe. This one wasn't nearly as safe. They took some chances with this one, and I appreciated that from a listening point of view, going, okay, bang, 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 bang through the albums, where the last one was sort of like, okay, they got a punch in the mouth. This time around, it's like, okay, we take the hit, we'll come back some more, and we'll give you something else. Like you said, the vocal on the female vocal on that with a bit of honky tonk piano in there too. I was like, this is a different track, and they didn't have to do it, and I enjoy what they did with it there. Bad Boy Boogie, I know you didn't like it that much, but I like how it's just a good old blues rock track for mine.
Shit chorus though. Fuck.
Yeah, I don't know, but the percussive hits in that one.
Bad Boy Boogie, bad is bad. Yeah. Fuck off. Seriously. You're 4 albums in and you're giving me that?
I liked it.
Go fuck yourself.
I think that the performances are back on. They're not like, they weren't bad before, but they've like I said, things weren't happy, but they were in a much better place on this record than the previous one. This isn't all hits, like I was saying about Nono, but that's a relatively small critique. I didn't think the live track as a close was really required on this one either. I thought that was a bit of a filler moment. But again, you've got 5 Years Dead on this one, which is a fucking all-time banger for mine, and All in the Name of. Like, that's such a...
I still don't know how that's not in the set.
It should be. It's one of those songs, like, now Wingadu, 16 and they've changed the age. You could change the age of this one to make it more appropriate for the day, but the song itself...
She's only 49. She's the reason that I can't sleep.
So, but there's like a lot of this stuff won't get through today's, PC Brigade standards, but for me, it's just such a...
You know what? We need to not worry about it. It's fucking lyrics, man.
Yeah, I know, and I agree with you.
It's not fucking real.
I agree with you.
It kind of is, but that was what it was.
Yeah,
like, fuck.
That's why I said at the top, it's autobiographical at this point in time, so you got to take it in the context that it's given. I'm not agreeing with those people. I'm saying what people out there will say about it. The devil's advocate card, not that I agree with it at all.
No, I'm thinking of something else because I was watching a review. Somebody went to it, and this is off topic, sorry, but they went to a Sebastian Bach show recently, and he's doing the Save the Grind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they changed the lyrics to Get the Fuck Out.
Yeah. He's only doing half the song.
Fuck off.
Yeah,
exactly.
You
wouldn't be going to the fucking show if you didn't know the album already.
Yeah. I don't know what they're trying to accomplish with that. Don't do that. Don't ever do that. It's fucking pointless.
Fuck me, man. What is rock and roll becoming, man? Yeah, seriously.
It's an interesting time. I'll put it that way. You're All I Need. That is one of those twisted ballads. That Guns N' Roses have one like it.
Used to love it.
That's it, yeah. It's the same sort of thing, the same sort of take on things. I enjoyed that. It's a dark, twisted little tale. But I think this is, they got their ass handed to them at the last one. I think they responded, for me. I don't think it's quite as impactful as Shadow the Devil, but this is the follow-up I wanted to Shadow the Devil for me. I think this one does enough. I gave it a 9 out of 10. I enjoyed it. All in the Name of, Wild Side, and 5 Years Dead. I reckon those tracks are fucking Killer. All right, let's see how we go with the next one, because this is probably one of the ones that everyone knows. This is the album that...
This album.
Yeah, this album. All right, Dr. Feelgood. 11 tracks, 45 minutes. The fifth studio album of the American band, released September 1989 via Elektra Records. Produced by Bob Rock at Little Mountain Sound Studios in Montreal. 5 singles were released from this, including Kickstart My Heart and the title track. What else? This is a monumental hit for the band. It's the only one to peak at number 1 in the US, while also peaking number 4 in the US, number 5 here in Australia, with a bunch of other top 10s around the world. This is the band's highest selling album, has been certified 6 times platinum in the US, 3 times platinum in Canada, as well as gold in both the UK and Switzerland. There was a lot going on in the studio at the time, with a heap of fucking vocal credits in the reading of this one. It's widely regarded as their best album, would be their last, with vocalist Vince Neil until 1997, with Generation Swine coming up then. And Dave, it's over to you.
Cool. It's very much an album of the time. Right place, right time, right album. Fuck yeah. And it's the first time we get Motley Crue clean and sober. You know, all presented in a style that was perfect for radio and MTV. And I've seen videos of concerts from this era, and fuck, they were on fire. They had so much energy. It's been ages since I've given this album a listen in full, and perhaps I'm just in the right mood at the moment, or feeling nostalgic, but fuck, it was a fun listen. It's just great to go back and just hear this over and over. Energy, riffs, solos, groove, focus, and it's cool. You know, it's just part of that great era of music. And it was my era when I first discovered rock and roll and heavy metal, and started to become the outcast, which was great.
And look where it's gotten you.
Exactly. Right into the hard rock show. I surround myself with outcasts. It's great. And it's still filled with sex, drugs, and rock and roll. There's some tender moments in there as well. There are a few parts that haven't aged well. Slice of Your Pie and Don't Go Away Mad, kind of average. But the rest of the album's pretty great.
I like Don't Go Away Mad.
It's alright.
It's a regular staple in their set.
It is. Time to grab a beer. Production's fucking great on this.
Bob Rock, yeah.
Yeah, it's a really good sounding album, if nothing else. They've obviously put a lot of work into making these songs the best they can be, and you know they're still Motley Crue, but they're catering towards getting to that next level. They're trying to grow. And you compare the lyrics on this to some of the demo versions, and they really crafted things.
The demos aren't good, this one.
They're interesting to hear.
Bad, actually.
It's just like, oh, wow, I'm glad that went through a few changes there. Interesting, but fuck. You know, of course, everyone knows the title track and Kickstart My Heart, and yes, they're overplayed, but fuck. There's a simple reason for that. They're good songs.
You can't deny those
especially
ones.
Kickstart My Heart. When that goes off fucking live, you just hear that
riff.
Oh, dun, 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 dun. It's nice that there's room for some acoustic ballads. Without You is pretty cool, and I've always liked Same Old Situation. I know Brendan had a problem with that when Nicky was talking about it. I don't mind it. It's pretty good, that one. And that fucking drum breakdown that he does. I'm sure you'll probably appreciate that as well. It's just... Tommy's got some fucking groove to him. Very cool moment in that song.
I love you, Tommy.
Yeah. The best thing about this album is the band sound like they enjoyed playing music together.
That's true.
They've clicked. They've got that special thing back, and that's cool. 8.5 out of 10. Dr. Feelgood, Kickstart My Heart, Without You, Same Old Situation, Sticky Sweet. That's a fun song. She Goes Down, you can't not smile when you hear that. It's time for a change. Like, I wonder what that's about.
Oh, yeah.
I thinking back to when I was 10, I used to play this in the lounge room. I wonder what the fuck my parents were thinking when they heard me. Like, She Goes Down.
He doesn't get it, thank God.
I had no fucking idea.
Yeah.
Probably the same thing you're thinking about when your son says some silly things when he's laughing at skulls that have no fucking...
I know. What am I doing? Could he know? No, he can't. He can't. Probably does.
You'll find it when they're older, believe me. It all comes out later on.
There's going to be some interesting conversations. Yeah. It'll be like, hey, I remember. No, you didn't. Yeah. No, you saw nothing. Shut up now.
Remember when I walked in and you were having mummy like a wheelbarrow? What was that all about? Oh, I know what that was all about.
The name of
Mining for Gold.
Rock and roll. Okay. Yeah. Anyway, is it my turn or you finished? Yeah. Okay.
That was Sticky Sweet.
Don't be embarrassed. It's all right.
I'm not. I'm the last person to get
embarrassed.
Natural.
That's natural.
Yeah, she sure kickstarts my heart.
Oh, that's good. That's why you married her.
Yeah. So
that's the point.
All right. Situation.
For this one,
here we go.
Got some, it gets sticky sweet in the end, didn't it?
It is. Yep.
That's what this one.
Dr. Feelgood.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah, that's what
Time for change.
Okay.
Literally.
Back on track.
All right, anyways, as we're touched on. All right.
Yeah, just don't go
Snake
in
wants
there.
to spit. So, sure does.
Like, here we go. We haven't had a big session either. It's just fucking us going off the rails.
That's my review. That's it.
We mentioned all of that.
Just a couple of one-liners here and there. That's all we're all about.
Singers. Yeah.
You know, short and sweet.
Sticky
It's
sweet.
sticky.
Production is A1 on
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
When you talk about albums, for me it starts with this album. A lot of people give the Black Album Metallica as a starting point. No. It starts here.
Well,
This
this
album-
is what got the Black Album.
Yeah, I know that, but
Yeah.
this doesn't get the. I mean, a lot of people know,
it deserves
but
more credit. Yeah.
Yeah.
this is where albums started to sound fucking great. This album still to this day could be released like that, and it would be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can really hear them crafting their sound here, putting a bit more time into the songs. Just seems to be more thought out musically. You can really hear Mick sort of... And he was one of the ones that took it probably more serious than the rest of the band, but you could hear him here, some slide guitar, some really... The playing is flawless on this.
Yeah. He's bringing more ideas to it as well. He's doing different things.
He probably... Yeah, he's definitely doing more things, but I think... Also, Tommy's stepped up his game. He's bringing some really cool drum fills and bits and pieces where he used to play very, not basic, because he did do some stuff, but it was very few and far between. Here, there's a lot more colour in the drums.
He's learned how to impact songs with his performance more. Like the drumming in Kickstart My Heart really helps push that song along. Like, it's a great riff in that, but that drumming mid-section fucking kicks it. Yeah.
Yeah, you just hear the songs have just taken another level. Obviously, Bob Rock is very much into that kind of thing. We know what he did with Metallica later on, a couple of years later.
Yeah.
So that was his forte. I mean, that'd be a guy that if you were in a band, you'd want to work with him as much as
him
it
or
would
Mutt
be.
Lang. Those were the
It's
times.
interesting because it would have been interesting to hear Lang's take on this
on
album.
these guys. That
you
would be
know.
very interesting, wouldn't it, thinking about that?
The same collection of songs and just to see where it would have went production-wise and everything, you know.
That's a spin out.
It'll be a lot more backing vocals.
Yeah, it'd be a lot. That's part of his contract anyway.
But like all albums, again, the good stuff really stands out, and there's some weaker stuff. Then I listen to it. You know, at this point in time, as big as this band is at this point,
this one.
this is like that's it. They're just the stadium. That's it.
Yeah.
There's nothing else. They can't game. Even though Kickstart's like done it, the whiskey or whatever, it's just purely for video because there is a Staples Center band. You know, that's it. Nothing less.
This is Madison Square Garden.
You know, that's where they're at. And like you said, the performers, now they've been a few years on the road, a few years older, supposedly sober. That's debatable. We'll just go with it.
That's what they say.
Yeah, I do.
They were in a lot less trouble.
Because they realise the fines were getting a little bit more now, you know?
They
Like,
were eating into their cocaine.
dude,
budget.
you're 35, you can't be doing that anymore.
Yeah.
It was all right when you were 23, not so much now. So, but yeah, no, there is some weaker points in the album.
Yeah, I'd
Slice of
agree
Your
with
Pie, you know. I'm trying to think of what else is on the album. A couple of songs on the back end. You got a track listing?
Yep.
Right here, dude.
Yeah, well,
What the fucking cassette?
Time for a Change.
Time for Change I actually like.
Yep.
I think that's a really good way to close out the album. She Goes Down I actually think is a bit of a weaker song. I do. You know, it's okay, but
It's fun, but the novelty wears off.
Yeah, and Rattlesnake Shake, like...
Yeah.
That's a bit of a filler for me, you know. And then I've had this... same old situation for me, of them having some really high moments and some really mediocre moments. And then because I haven't listened to the albums back to back in a long time, they really stand out more, these weaker moments. And I don't necessarily... Well, I think they've spread them out okay.
Yeah,
it's not like 4 or 5 songs in a row and then it comes good at the end.
It's not like you've got a half flat album. They've done the journey well.
But yeah, when you look at it, you could probably say, were they an album band? Because
At this point, I'm doubting it. Yeah.
They could have been an EP band, and they would have been the best things ever. You know? Like, you could take 3 or 4 songs off nearly every album.
Yeah, oh, that's a fair point.
And, so for me, I gave it an 8 out of 10. I know it's sold crazy and it's done things for them that... And to be honest with you, I'd still love to be
if
a part of an album like that.
One of those songs, we'd sell.
So I'm not knocking it per se, but I'm just saying that, there wasn't a lot going on. And if you've heard Supersonic Relics, which is a Bits and Pieces album, Monstrous was a cool song, but it was only like a minute thing. Yeah. But what they included here was Get It For Free. And God, that's a shit song. Like, obviously, I reckon that's all they had. So you had to work with these 10 songs, 9 songs.
Yep.
Because I really don't think they've written any more. Although they've put the time and effort to get the performances done. Because there's some really good tempos here.
Yeah.
That's what I did enjoy. Where it was Girls, for me, it was very samey. This had a lot of variety. Doesn't mean it was always good, but I appreciated the fact that they did grow between Girls and this album. So, 8 out of 10. Obviously, Feel Good kicks up my heart.
Yep.
You know, you can put them, you can put them to the side. You don't really need to add them, but, they're such staples for this album. I still remember video hits on a Saturday morning. Yeah. And Kickstart My Heart would come on. Yeah. I just thought it was the fucking greatest song. It was just, I loved it. I'd record it, I could have a VHS, believe it or not, of it.
And also the radio, the cassette on the radio.
You do that too. And I wanted All Queen. They were the 2 songs I always tried to fucking catch at that point in time.
I always fucking talk over the intro, the bastards.
Yeah, and had the fucking credits at the end sometimes too.
So Don't Go Away Mad was another one I think. It's still just a really good song that sort of ties in everything from previous to now. Yep. It just sounds better. And I love Time for Change. I actually think, a cool song. And it's ironic because they fuck Vince off after this album. So was he singing his departure in this song? Or
I've written that down as the for the wrestling fans, it's the Kevin Sullivan moment. Writes himself out of his own marriage. So that's what's happened in this case.
Yeah, big time. Yeah, it's when you look at everything that happens in this really a short span of time. They had this massive tour, and within 2 years he's out. Doing a solo thing. So. Yeah. Anyways, let's not get dramatic. Down.
No, let's not. So you're done?
Yeah, I think I've had enough. Okay. I've had enough of feeling good.
Now go. See, this one, I know how widely this is loved, but I do wonder if on the strength of the singles, because they are fucking monstrous, if the album as a general opinion is a little bit overrated.
Big time.
Yeah. Yes. I don't think it's their best work. It's not a bad album at all, but comparing, high spots to low spots, I said earlier on, they're a victim of their own success with the fucking heights they get to on some songs. Just means when you come down, it really feels like a come down on the albums. It's a cute little intro, but then you're off to the fucking races with this one. Those singles are the reason why this album was their most successful one. I fully understand why. I completely get it. Dr. Feelgood, Kickstart My Heart, Same Situation, Don't Go Away Mad, Without You. Fuck, everyone knows those songs, especially the first 2 they mentioned there.
I'll tell you what, before you go on, their management or people behind them calling the shots always picked the right song.
Singles,
they really did, yeah.
When you look at right through up to this point in time.
And they didn't always agree, the band, either, on which ones were going to be...
I think but whoever was steering that ship back then, really...
Was it Doc McGee?
No.
I
think Doc McGee jumped around here for a bit, or they were fucking him off here at one point. But A&R guys and whoever the reps are back then, they picked the right songs because they really catapulted them probably a lot further than what they deserved.
I think Feel Good almost didn't make the album because Nicky wasn't really confident in bringing it in.
Wow.
And then it was like they thought it'd be like the 3rd best song for a single the band did, and the label said, no, we're going to go with it.
Plus, it was also about his dealer, which didn't go down very well because I think he got the shit kicked out of him.
But it's one of those all-time things. It's where they've become that autobiographical band. They take the real world, incorporate it into their art, and here's what you get. Like I said, I feel like the lesser lights on this one don't hold up as well as the lesser lights on previous albums of mine. I think that Shout at the Devil, the weaker tracks are stronger than the weakest tracks on this one. I would say the same thing for Girls, 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 to be honest. I think the weaker tracks on that one are stronger than the weakest tracks on this one.
Okay.
Not everyone's going to agree with that, and that's all good, but, like, that's what I was saying, but the highs of this album, this is the Everest. This is where they just go fucking way up there. And the thing is that there's actually nothing bad. So when I say those things before, there's nothing bad. It's just that you're going from up there. This is really, really good. But coming down from way up there, it just doesn't feel like any other band at any other time be happy to have that level of songs. But just by comparison, it's just that, oh, wow. Slice of Your Pie, big dose of swing and groove on that one. It was pretty cool. The layering, that was impressive. That song is hard to resist in that way it makes you want to move. I just think it does drag a little bit at the end of the song, though.
That's track number 2 on the album, though. I mean, let's take the interlude at the start.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be track number 2.
No, it didn't feel right.
No.
It didn't feel right.
Not after Feelgood.
Yeah.
No, and that's where it was like, that's where that didn't help it, because it makes you notice those drops.
Stark comparison.
Yeah, it's like you go here, and then it's like, oh. And then here, and then it's like, oh. And that doesn't help. That's why I think as an overall listening to this one as it flows, it's not as riveting as other ones are. Like, the high spots are fucking immense, but it's just like you come down pretty hard afterward. Like that, and so yeah, what did I say? Slice Your Pie and Rattlesnake Shake, they lean into the blues and the riffs and that, but whilst they're good songs, they just sort of, they're not the most original, memorable things, and they just sort of aren't quite right on here. The thing is that on this one with Bob Rock behind it, they sort of added these 80s hits, which were all the rage, and they also mixed Vince back a little bit, which sort of, I think, in the headphones as well as in the mix, they made him fucking really belt the vocal out, which is not a bad thing. It was just a good trick, but it felt like, in a lot of respects, whilst they knew they had good songs, but there were buttons being pushed in production and that to go, okay, this is going to go to radio, because this song is going to cut it. I think this production is great. Bob Rock is the man on this one. You can hear every detail on this, heaps of depth, heaps of space. There's so much going on with this one too. Bob Rock, for all the shit he gets for what he's done with the bass playing and stuff like that, and Sananga and whatever else, I think for him as a producer, what he's done, it's a fucking master of the art. For mine, I love the layering on this one, the panning of little things like background piano and guitar touches when they're hard left and right. Like, the deep listen on this is really engaging. Got some nice crunch in the tones, but like little bits of ear candy as well to make it, more, cerebrally interesting. Kickstart My Heart is just fucking whatever. Like, just forget it. But that I love the drums in that song. I reckon that if that had was it Randy Castillo later on?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
If that had him, it wouldn't have worked.
Yeah, and yeah, Tommy.
Tommy was that.
Well, he took the idea in the verses from Ballroom Blitz from the Suite, and you can hear that.
You can hear
shuffle.
But it works so well playing against that riff.
It does. So and that's Mick Mars's best guitar tone to date.
Yeah, it sounds fucking great on this one. I think that the ballad on this one is great as well. They've gotten better at that as they've gone on in a lot of respects, and they've learned where to place them here. It's a staple song as well. But then, Same Old Situation is a good little counterpoint to that. So that's part of the ones where the album flow sort of comes on right. The little, at the end of Without You, the little flanger,
yes.
which is one of your favourite words.
I'm trying not to mention it.
But that's cool. Again, there's little things, that and Same Old Situation, they've got little bits and pieces, little details like the cowbell, the way it was used on this one, in Same Old Situation was much better. Yeah, they got the level much better. Like that worked. I thought Sticky Sweet had that little sort of country sort of flavour to it. She Goes Down, I think that's dangerously close to filler for mine.
Bad. It is.
I'm sure it's a filler.
Yeah. Hey, there we go. And this is the thing where you don't know how harsh you're being, because like I was saying, the highs are really high. None of this is bad, but I don't know. I some parts here, but Don't Go Away Mad is another clever little song. I like the way they played with, it's a simple song, but it's clever at the same time. It's got enough wit to carry it through.
Yeah.
And we've all touched on Time for Change. I like it's a bizarre. It's the outlier song on this album, but it's also, in terms of what happens next, you sit there and go, okay, rightio. Should have just closed with Don't Go Away Mad. That was the perfect album closer for mine on this one. It's a good, solid album. Probably a bit overhyped because of the singles, but I understand why it happens at the same time. But it's a good album all the same. 8.5 out of 10 from me. Kickstart My Heart, Dr. Feelgood, and Don't Go Away Mad are my absolute stands. But there's a lot of good tracks on this one as well. Now we go through the band's first lineup change. Yes, so Motley Crue's self-titled album is 12 tracks for 60 minutes. The sixth studio album of the American band released March 1994 by Elektra Records. Produced by Bob Rock at A&M Studios in California and Little Mountain Sound Studios in Vancouver. 2 singles were released in Hooligan's Holiday and Misunderstood. This album didn't hit the heights of Dr. Feelgood, peaking number 7 in the US, number 7 in the UK, number 3 here in Australia, with a bunch of top 30s all over the world. It's been certified gold in the US, but that's the only certification that it's got. This infamously comes about after Vince Neil was quit or was fired, depending on who you believe. With John Corabi brought in to replace him. This is also the band's first album of new material since Dr. Feelgood, with the compilation Decade of Decadence coming in between. I think you'd go first on this one, wouldn't you? Yep.
This is the best Motley Crue album by far.
Okay.
On every level. I know it didn't sell and didn't do everything.
You're not the only one that thinks that, though. There are a lot of people that
absolutely. I got this album when it came out. I actually think without Feelgood, this album wouldn't have happened.
Okay.
The playing on this is just raised again. Like Tommy's drumming, this is his best drumming album. He just smokes it out.
Having an extra writer and extra guitarist helped, I think.
But, like I said earlier, with all the people making the decisions on singles and what should go out, who allowed them to get John Corabi in the band? Because he is completely different vocally. And I can see why the average fan
has turned away.
Went, what the fuck? Because Vince's vocals still would have suited on this album. Even though it's the heaviest one they've done by far. You know, Feelgood lent it into that. This took it to another level again.
Really gritty.
But the songs are fantastic, you know. It was just John's vocal was different. But I loved it. But I don't think it should have been under the Motley Crue banner.
That's a conversation about it.
I actually, in hindsight, think if he had to use the Brides of Destruction and said Motley Crue's dead or we're on hiatus, whatever.
Any name you can roll off.
It's 3 guys
Saints
from Motley, it's this dude from the Scream.
Yeah,
it would have sold tons. I just think the Motley Crue banner for what they built over, and we're not talking about a couple of years, we're talking about 11, 12 years.
This is when it comes down to it, because I just signed a $25 million deal with Elektra Records.
Yeah.
And that's what kicked all of this off.
Yeah.
They didn't even want to announce Corabi was the vocalist until they had everything locked away because they didn't want the label to cancel the deal.
Yeah, so they were taking gambles. They could see that maybe it might not work. Now, when you look at all the singers from back then or whatever, was he the right fit? Probably not.
For Motley Crue.
Probably not. Although he sounds fantastic on these songs. It's just under the Motley Crue banner that was heard him. You can. It's like rebranding and changing the major component.
For this band.
It very rarely works. You try and look at any kind of car that changes something, whether it be a body shape or whatever, it's not the same. You know, there was something, there was a magic, there was a chemistry, whether they liked it or not, that even they've recognised later down the track. You know, it's as dysfunctional as they are, they have to do it together. Till death really doesn't part. You know?
Yeah, that's it.
Because they're not a band that has that leadway of you can take a Tommy Lee out, and we'll talk about that later on. But or whatever, one component completely changes this band, and it's not Motley Crue, and it isn't. But having said that, I love every song on this fucking album, from Power to the Music right through to Drift Away. I love this album. This is the only album I really go back to. And listen to on a regular basis.
Cool.
At this particular point in time, there was Dee Snider was doing a band called Widowmaker and stuff like that. I don't know if you're aware of that, but that's some really, really good stuff going on there. There was a heaviness just before the grunge thing really took over that, it was on the back end of Kiss's Revenge coming into Carnival, would have been Carnival Souls around this time. So bands were getting heavier and cool, and even Warrant was doing some cool shit. And Ultraphobic is a really good album. So yeah, this whole era is like, okay, from 87 to 92 you had that golden era. Then there was some nice little nuggets between 92 and 95, and this here is like a hidden gem that if you could just take it, just don't look at, say, Motley Crue on the front, just listen to it for being an album, and it's flawless. The Mick's playing is fantastic. I just think the songs are just perfect. It's just I can't 10 out of 10.
Wow,
I love everything about it. And even Hypnotised, which I wasn't aware of because I have Quaternary.
Yep.
And that's not on there.
Yeah, because they nixed it later on.
Yeah. Oh, wow. And that's a fucking great song.
They've dogged Karabi pretty badly over the years.
And that's such a good song. Like, how did that didn't I would have taken Dropping Like Flies off, and I like that song, but I would have put Hypnotised on.
Yeah, no, Hypnotised was one that should have been on this.
Yeah. It's like, fuck. And I know they don't talk it up, apart from Big Mars, really, he supports it.
Yeah.
Nicky hates it and whatever, you know. But I saw John Corabi come out a couple of years ago and do it. And it was one of the best shows I've been to. It's just, they work live, it's just fucking good.
And he's good too, like he's a good
He's still good now, like, Yeah, 10 out of 10, man. I love every song. I can't pick any.
Nice.
Might be Misunderstood, actually. That's really different from Crue.
It is different, yeah.
And, some good shit, but love it. Hammered. Yeah. A few others. Smoke the Sky.
Smoke the Sky is a fucking banger.
Yeah. Till Death Do Us Part. Power to the Music. Uncle Jack.
Okay.
I'm done for this.
Cool. I was 14 when this came out.
Shine.
Okay. Yeah. I was 14 when this came out, and it wasn't what I knew Motley Crue to be.
No, I get that.
Yeah, I
do
wasn't
get
interested. You know, there's a bunch of new bands I was listening to, and I'd chuck on Decade of Decadence occasionally. That's what I wanted Motley Crue to be. So I heard this once, and that was about it. But a few years ago, people on Facebook were banging on about this, so I gave it a few listens then, and I honestly didn't know what all the fuss was about.
Fuck.
Yep.
Still?
You're
fucked.
Wow.
Yep. And listening to it again for this review,
Okay.
it's okay, but, you know, as you said, shouldn't have the Motley Crue name attached to it. It's okay, I know people love this album, but I just don't get it. I think I've heard this a total of 10 times, and each time I hear it, every time becomes more and more of a struggle to get through it.
Fuck.
Wow.
Yeah.
What?
Okay, here we go.
It's a fucking difficult time for 80s bands in the 90s, and this was like the beginning of it, you know. Grunge alternative, you think of that, and the last band you think of is Motley Crue. A lot of bands changed their sound, and it's just a fucking bad time in music for me.
You struggle with all the albums at this time, though.
To
be fair, you really do hate
I really
these
do
years.
when fucking 80s bands...
That early to mid-90s, you fucking lose it. You can't...
From about early 93.
Doesn't lose Unusual Illusions, does it?
No.
No.
93 to 98, I reckon.
Yeah. 92 was the last great year. 93 up to about 99, just fucking
there's some
horrible.
good hidden gems in there.
They're
few and far between.
Underground stuff, like Dream Theater. There's got some fucking great, but it wouldn't get the attention because it just wasn't the right era. You know, for the most part, none of these songs just stick with me. It plods along in one place. There's no real song that jumps out. It doesn't shift gears or tempos all that much. Love Shine breaks it up a bit, but it's really not a special song. The hooks are gone, the instantly recognisable intros are gone, the energy's gone, the fun is gone, the fucking crew's gone. Motley Crue trying to be serious musicians, I don't want Motley Crue to be serious. I have Dream Theater for that. Motley Crue are a fucking party band. As you said, once again, they should not have released this under the Motley Crue name. But, you know, I've listened to this heaps of times. I don't get the reason. And Corabi does have a great voice. I'm not taking anything away from him. And the band did change their sound to fit that. And the result is an unrecognisable band. The only song that got my attention was Hypnotised. That's why I had that reaction when you mentioned that. And that's 13 songs in. I'm like, finally, we're getting somewhere. But, you know, the production's good. And while music styles were changing in 94, at least albums still sounded good. It wasn't until a couple of years later when they just became overproduced and had excessive effects. Yeah, I think Motley Crue...
This is one of my favourite productions ever on an album.
Yeah, it sounds good.
Yeah.
But Motley just forgot their audience. Yeah, younger fans in 94 weren't really interested in Motley Crue. So you're not going to gain any new fans. Unfortunately, they also alienated their old fans at the same time. So I can understand why they were playing a half-empty rooms.
It's funny you say that because I look at some of the songs from Decade of Decadence, like Primal Scream, teaser and all that, and that's for me beginnings of shaping this album. Like you
listen
to the riffs,
fantastic.
You know,
you can imagine
Primal Scream darker, and it's a little darker and whatever else. And
if they'd done more like Primal Scream, that follow up, if that was what was going to be following up Dr. Feelgood, Motley Crue would be like the fucking Mount Rushmore.
I'll give you some of the tempos are fucking slow. Like Uncle Jack's slow as fuck.
Yeah.
Like,
that was kind of the 94 thing. Find the fucking tempo and release a whole album in that.
I think it's just that. I think on this one too, one of my criticisms on the album, I like the album, but I think that they went a bit too long on the songs themselves. Like each song could have had 30 seconds to a minute sort of trimmed off of them to make it a leaner listen overall. That's a critique I have, but
But yeah, I'm done. I gave it 4 out of 10.
Wow.
Hypnotizer was my standout. It's only a song that kind of grabbed my interest.
Wow. Okay. Didn't expect that one. Although actually knowing you now, it's like, I should have seen that coming, shouldn't I?
Yeah.
This is different, and the debate will rage for all time about should this be under the Motley Crue name. And I would say, for the benefit of all involved, it shouldn't have been under the band name. It would have served everyone better to have founded, because the hype would have been there anyway.
They could have put Motley on hiatus, which is
it's
a cliche tune of we may get back together, we may not. And people would have been okay with that, and this should have come out under Prize of Destruction, because that's sort of the fucking thing he was doing soon after all, around that time.
So this to save that debate, I agree that people should have put this under a different name. But they just signed a massive deal. We're doing everything they could to sweep all this shit under the rug until the album was ready to go, and then the label will go, well, fuck, here we are, we've got to go with it anyway. So there was a lot of back and forth behind the scenes. So I get the reasons why, just don't think it was the smartest move they could have made. This is grittier. This is a lot darker. There's no party on this one. This isn't an overly happy listen. It's denser. There's a definite shift in all this sort of stuff, but all of that is made to suit Crosby's vocal. It's a lower tone, raspier, gravelier voice, and those things work. And the lyrics have shifted to suit as well. So Nicky and John working together lyrically and songwriting-wise has actually been a good thing in this case. I liked how they've incorporated... I know a lot of bands struggled with this time, but for me, I liked how they incorporated what's happening in the musical world around them. They weren't chasing the dragon on it, so to speak, but they were just doing enough to incorporate it and change things. Lots of detail in the production, like you were saying. It's darker, more bottom heavy. Things like the little acoustic touches and elements like that have been really mixed in beautifully to give this one some, not sparkle, but it just gives you little points of reference that it's like, okay, this is just a really intriguing listen, especially on the deep listen when you sit down with the headphones, just fucking really take this one in. Where the vocals sit on this one shifts and is really interesting as well. There's little effects like reverb and layering to really bring impact to certain aspects of the song. So I understand what you're saying about it, but for me, apart from trimming them, I think the actual composition and performance was really good, because the way they've pushed and pulled and used the studio to their advantage in this one has been what makes each individual song move for me. I understand there's not a whole lot of diversity pace-wise, but from song to song there is diversity because of different elements being used in all those, for me. Anyway, I thought the grunge elements were well used here, but they also used the part of grunge that, is a bit underrated in my mind, and that's the country side of it. Every grunge band had a bit of country in them, and you may not like that. You're sitting there going, I can see your eyes fucking...
I don't mind country.
I can see your eyes just glazing over. But Hooligan's Holiday brings some of that southern...
I was thinking Welcome to the Numb.
That's another one, yeah. But they used what was interesting about the grunge movement in that space and incorporated it a bit here and made it a really good new thing that Motley Crue hadn't done before. Along with... And what they did too, and how they tied each song together with little sort of carnival kind of touches. Like, this is not a concept album, but they've made everything tie up, which is something they hadn't done before either. They've done it, like, they teased it with a couple of songs here and there, but this is like an almost full album where they just made it a little thing, just the tail in and tail out of songs ties over nicely. This all sort of crescendos in Misunderstood for mine. I think that the depth and attention to detail in that song really does shine, but you've never heard anything like that from this band before until this point. But like things like Love Shine for me, that it was only a 2-minute long track, but again, in the context of a longer listen, probably didn't need to be on the record for mine.
There's a couple of songs I would have put. Living in the Know, which is a song that's off the Quaternary, would have fitted better.
Love Shine just didn't quite... It would have been better to go from...
If you're going to do that, I would have swapped Drift Away with Love Shine, and made Love Shine be the last track on the album.
Yeah.
You know,
I just
if you're going to keep it in the context of those songs, I would have swapped them over.
I would have just gone from Misunderstood to Poison Apples. Like,
you could do that.
That would have worked too. Like, that would have been a really cool 1-2 punch kind of part of the album there as well.
It probably needed something to break it up a little bit at that point in time.
I get it, but yeah, just
Drift Away would have worked there.
That would have worked there, yeah. But yeah, I don't know. Every band of the era had an issue with this kind of era, but for me, they've navigated it a lot better than a lot of other bands do. I think this is,
I think Mickey hit it on the head when he goes, if you're into Soundgarden, you're going to get it. If you don't, then
there is a Soundgarden vibe to this one for sure. Yeah, and that's not a bad thing. But I understand at the same time why Dave sits there and goes, "This is not Motley Crue."
Yeah.
I fully understand that, and we've all said it. That's been done to death, but. Yeah, I don't know. It's good, but it's one of those ones for me you'll put on when a particular mood strikes. I understand why you love it, but for me it's like, okay, when I'm in a mood, I'll listen to it in full and I'll enjoy it. If I'm not in the right mood for it, it's not going to do it. But that doesn't take away anything from this, because it's a very good listen when you come up to it. If any of this comes up on shuffle, you're going to be happy to spin those tracks. It's just that for the duration and the style, it's one of those ones where I've got to be in a particular mindset. But there's some really nice stuff on this one too that brings some real grunt. Smoke the Sky.
Oh,
that fucking riff is ball turning. Same with Poison Apples. Like, there's some real, when they want to kick it over, they go heavy.
I think Hammered is
it's a good one too.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. I didn't mind the track Drift Away to close it. I thought that was a nice way to sort of wrap it up. It was a good little different flavour there as well. Don't ignore this one for mine. I think that even it shouldn't be under the name. We've done it to death, but it's a good album. Listen to it. It's worth your time. I gave it an 8 out of 10. Poison Apple, Smoke the Sky, and Misunderstood, my standouts on this one. But we'll take a quick little break. We've got a few albums to go. We'll see what happens in post-production, but we're back in a second for you.
I think, like everybody, Dr. Feelgood was a bit of my gateway into the band. It's I think we're all of a similar age who are filming this tonight, and it was probably sort of the first time that we heard of Motley Crue, really. But then from there, I worked backwards and skipped over Theatre of Pain because it's still shit. But then you discover, Girls, Girls, Girls and Shout at the Devil, and I still think that their debut, Too Fast for Love, is one of the best albums of the era. And then you come forward, and I really, really love that John Corabi album. And every album that they've done has good stuff on it. Even Generation Swine and Theatre of Pain. I mean, they've all got moments. Saints of Los Angeles was awesome. I wish they had done another full length after that, but there is a few hidden gems that came after that, like standalone releases. Like the track "Sex" was pretty cool. What else have they done? Well, the Dirt soundtrack, nobody needed that Like a Virgin cover, but the song The Dirt's pretty cool. I don't mind that. And, I mean, they're sort of a timeless band, and even when I think I've seen them 4 or 5 times now, and they probably are nowhere near as good as they once were, but even a bad Motley Crue gig is still a great time for everybody. Vince doesn't have it like he once did, but there's so much spectacle and stuff going on that if you're there, it's it doesn't matter how good Vince sounds. It's totally different to watching YouTube videos and going, Vince sucks. Being there, you don't really notice it as much. So I just love them, always have, and I dare say I always will.
We're back, and it's time to move on to Generation Swine. 13 tracks, 49 minutes, the 7th studio album of the American band released June 1997 via Elektra Records, produced by Scott Humphrey, so a change there. Nikki Sixx and Tommy Lee. 3 singles were released from this, including Afraid and Beauty. This album was another lesser light in the charts, peaking number 4 in the US, number 80 in the UK. It's funny saying number 4, but it's a lesser light, but the certifications show that later on. Number 34 here in Australia, while going top 20 in Sweden, Canada and Japan. Another record to only receive 1 certification, that being gold in the US. This album sees Vince Neil return to the band on vocals, but it'll be the last with Tommy Lee on drums until 2008 with Saints of Los Angeles. This came at quite the tumultuous time. If you read up on this, Corabi left, Bob Rock got fired, they fired a whole bunch of people around the band at this point in time. And this was also being the last album they released with Electro Records because they were done with that label as well. This was a shit show, but we'll get the reviews done. Dave?
Yeah, like a lot of bands from the 80s, Motley Crue certainly had a hard time in the 90s. They chose to change their sound again and tried to be modern, and it didn't really work. Vince is back, and you can already hear that it's a brighter sounding album than the self-titled one that came out a couple of years before this. But the opening track, Find Myself, I can barely understand a fucking word Vince is saying. And that's not because he's like old now and he's like mumbling and whatever he calls those performances. But the lyrics I can make out are just average and uninteresting.
What I found interesting, that Scott Humphrey produced this. He works with Rob Zombie, and the
Rob Zombie's fucking great.
Yeah,
but his vocals are clear, even though he's growling. You can make out what he's saying, but this is just a fucking mess. And what I can make out is average and uninspiring. I gotta find myself some blood. I'm a tough motherfucker. You know, the Crue have been a lot of things over the years. They've never been boring. This was boring. And that first song is just switches styles between Nine Inch Nails and Pearl Jam. It's like, who the fuck does this band want to be now? The band have forgotten who they are and what got them to where they are. You know, to be fair though, in 1997 they could have released Dr. Feelgood and nobody would have given a shit.
Yeah, that's true.
Guns N' Roses could have released Appetite for Destruction in 97 and nobody would give a shit.
Yeah.
The sad thing about this, I can kind of hear the album it could have been. You have a song like Afraid, it's a good vocal melody, it's a decent chord progression, there's a hook there, it's just covered with way too much production. And it's almost like the band wrote an album, they were who they were, and they gave it to the guy behind the desk and say, make us sound modern. And 90s sounding albums had way too much production, and it fucked whatever this album could have been. And a band like this doesn't need it. You know, I can hear some of the songs there, and it's just, why are you doing this? It's like that fucking, what's that band? Your Torture album from earlier this year. Incubus.
Oh, yeah.
There's good songs there, but it's just these annoying fucking noises. I can't handle that shit.
You hate
I
that.
don't know why bands fuck up their songs with too much
If you want to piss
production.
off Dave, give him something that has beeps and bops.
Yeah. It's,
He can't deal.
it's annoying. You know, Flush. You know, Crue, like I said, Crue have been a lot of things over the years. They've never been boring before. And I don't know why. It's a production trick, but there's a tendency to drown out the vocals and push everything else forward and do that effect on
I've got a theory on that, and that's because a lot of this was probably done with Karabi in mind.
Yeah,
and Vince is
it was
the
written
right
for
vocalist
Karabi.
for that style.
Yeah, it doesn't fit Vince. And Confessions and Glitter, they're just boring. I remember at the time, and I heard Vince was back in Motley Crue, I'm just like, fuck yeah. I was really excited. I thought Motley Crue were going to release an album like Dr. Feelgood.
And the name Generation Swine too, it conjures up a very different image to what you get.
Yeah, you're thinking that
record.
this is going to be old school Crue sticking it to the younger kids. You know, they're going to be who they are. Then I heard the new version of Shout at the Devil, and I'm just,
that was redundant.
Why? You know, you're trying to bring your past into the modern, and it doesn't. It's two eras. It's like fucking chalk and cheese. It doesn't work. You know. Half of these things, I couldn't even pick Vince singing on them. Whether it's just he doesn't fit the style or the production over it. But I don't even know why they got him back if they're not going to let him sound like him.
Good point.
Yeah. You know, I can understand why Karabi sued the band over this, because it was obviously written for him. It goes from forgettable to just sad. This is fucking sad. I gave it 1 out of 10.
Ooh, I was going to get the bin then.
No, I'm not going to bin it. Because like I said, Afraid was a pretty good song. I can hear what it could have been. Yeah, like I said, it's sad.
All right.
Yeah, I actually agree with everything you said. A lot of the vocal harmonies or sound like John, and Vince was trying to sound like copying what John.
Well, Vince
done.
is virtually a ring-in at this point in time. Like, here's the songs, do your part. Like,
yeah, but copy this.
Yeah,
here's John's guide vocal.
Yeah,
and do it like that. Because you can hear some songs like Flush, and it sounds like I can hear John singing this big time. You know, and I thought, geez, that's interesting. And although I like some of these songs, it doesn't. Yeah, you're right. Vince sounds like. He sounds hesitant because he's not.
This was all forced.
It's not how he's thinking.
Yeah.
How he would do it.
I think you can hear this is forced because the label were pushing for Vince to come back because you know the self-titled wasn't a huge success, and they've just signed this massive multi-million-dollar deal, and the label are going, "Oh fuck!"
It's all about Vince.
Yeah, get Vince back, and so they forced it, and this is why you don't force things.
Yeah.
the band sounds conflicted and lost here. You know, they really do. They don't. You know, they're looking at bands like U2 now for inspiration and trying to get something out of whatever they were doing there. 'Cause I hear that in some of the musical styles and sort of even the shit that Mick was doing on guitar and some of the things was just noises and stuff. It's like, that's not him. You know, that's
he can play.
He was chained up on this one, I reckon.
He's always said that he hates this album for it. It's like Nicky was trying to please everyone around him. So trying to please Tommy because Tommy didn't want Vince back. And Scott Humphries had worked on a Tommy solo album. I don't know if you knew that. They were good mates, so I'll get him and we'll do this and we'll incorporate something, because if you look at all of Tommy's drum solos from the previous album, it's full of fucking noises and bullshit. He loves all that shit. You know, so all right, we'll do this, and we'll, you know, it's getting away. It's just completely lost, you know, for what Motley was. And you know, you want to say Motley lost it on the South title? Jesus Christ!
Who
are they here? You know, like they're not.
They fell apart on this.
It's like, I'm doing this to keep Tommy around, and then we need to bring Vince back, but they're not even talking. You know, all these other elements are going on.
This wasn't done for music's sake. This is a business decision.
You know, it was just done on the back of really a bad album in terms of sales and the tour.
And the pressure led to bad decisions being made again here.
I don't actually mind the album. It's not a go-to album. I really hate the production on this. I find it really top-heavy in bass, really thin-sounding in drums and everything. It's really all over the place. I don't like the context. Like, you look at a song like Let Us Pray, Jesus Christ, what are the effects on that guitar? It's just like, it smashes you in the face, ridiculously loud, but then the rest of the album's not like that, you know? It's just all these different levels, and they're just like, oh, we'll try this, we'll write this, but then they said, oh, we've written all these songs, we'll just put them out all together on one album, you know? Where if they had to do 4 or 5 Let Us Praise, you could at least get your ears around a sound. You don't have that. I do agree with Dave. I think Afraid is the closest to classic Motley that you're going to get, you know? That chorus is like, that's straight out of a girl's album or Feelgood, you know? I think it would have served better as a Nicky Six solo album.
Precursor to
you know, I would have said, we're not doing anything, I've got these songs, I'm going to put them out or whatever. Again, bands don't do this because of their name, and like you could even have the same argument with Metallica in the Load and Reload era. You know, some songs on there you could have said it could have been James Hetfield's solo album, and it probably would have sold 3 times the amount. You know,
Jerry Cantrell released his solo stuff and didn't mix the pond with
you know, look, it still has some okay songs. I don't mind, like I said, Afraid. I like Flush. I do like Flush a lot. Let Us Pray I do like as a song. I think it's really different for Crüe. A Rat Like Me is probably the most closest to classic sounding
that was
other than
I found
Afraid.
Closest to Motley,
you know, you'd sort of see that fitting somewhere in the late 80s, early 90s. And I know you don't like it, but I didn't mind the regroove Shout. I just thought, I get why they did it, because it's like reintroducing Vince back, and here's a little bit of what we've done before, and it's just a bit of a twist.
But it doesn't make any sense on the album, though.
No, well, look, it probably not needed. But
as a single,
Jesus Christ, I tell you what's not needed is Brandon. Oh, for fuck's sake. And that's, again, just pleasing Tommy to stick around. And that's all it was. Because that song is garbage. Oh, fuck. You know, put that on your solo and whatever, mate. Cool. But why and how that made, I don't care. Someone had to be impartial and go, look.
That song's not going to cut it.
It's his vocals.
Save that for your next Quordinary. Like, that's your next, whatever, EP.
Tommy Land or whatever the fuck you put out afterwards, go nuts, you know. Just because you've had a kid, it doesn't mean you need to write a fucking song. You know, not
under this band name. Not after the thing is, what I find funny in the context of what you're saying now is that they just had this massive issue with the band sounding different, doing all these different things.
And then they go and incorporate all these other synths and fucking shit going on and different guitar. I've never heard so many guitar tones on one album.
It was bizarre.
Goes from light rock to heavy, distorted, crazy fucking John 5 shit to some other fucking thing. Anyways, 4 out of 10.
No standouts?
Yeah, I told you.
Oh, sorry.
Afraid, Flush,
That's
Let
it.
Us Pray,
Yep.
Rat Like Me, and I did like Shout.
Yep.
97.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, we covered it. This is different. The funny thing for me is that I find this to be a bigger departure from their sound than the previous album.
Yeah,
I
same.
think that the self-titled sounds more like Motley Crue than this one does.
Like I said, if you go back to the Decade of Decadence new songs that they did, Angela and all that, this was a progression in songwriting. Power to the Music still flows on from Primal Scream and all that. You know, a lot of them do. This...
It's just fucking what?
Yeah.
It comes out of
where
nowhere.
do you start with this, you know?
From the opening, you know, this is going to be experimental. Like, Finding Myself is just like... it's like alt rock with singing and a Vince singing in a lower vocal, which is like...
Is that Vince singing that I've got to find myself some drugs? Or is he just, does he come in afterwards?
No, he's singing it because there's a couple of songs later
I thought that
on.
was Nicky going, I've got to find myself some drugs.
I'm pretty sure that it's Vince doing the vocals, and because there's a couple of songs in the credits later on where they do point out who does what.
Okay.
But that wasn't one of them. From memory, if I'm wrong, someone out there can correct me.
Yeah, because it sounds like it would be
I
Nicky.
do, but Beauty, I don't think it's all the same vocalist, but apparently in the credits it is as well.
Really?
Yeah.
That sounds like Tommy would do that.
Yeah.
Beauty.
I think so, or maybe I'm wrong on that one actually, but yeah, I don't know. But fuck, they were all over the joint. They were mixing and matching roles.
The Rocket Ship, I think, is Nicky.
Yeah, that was Nicky, and then you had Brandon was obviously Tommy.
Fuck me.
Those are the ones where they've gotten credits on. I think there's a couple of like additional vocal credits kicking around, so they might be wrong on Beauty, but I'm pretty sure on the opening track that's a Vince take. Karobi has claimed and sued the band that, you know, he wrote about 80% of this, and for me, you can hear it.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I would have rather he'd done the vocals on this. Because at least I would have... See, the thing is, people ripped on Motley Crue. I reckon this album, if they'd have kept Karobi, because he would have kept Nicky on 6 with the writing side of things as well.
Yeah.
And I think that because what was happening was Karobi left because they put a song down, he'd come back the next day to find everything was fucking changed. And he got over it. And he went, fuck this shit, I'm out of here. And I don't blame him for that, because if they're doing this with Scott Humphrey, and it's like, what the fuck is going on? They could have just made... If they'd have done what they did with the album prior to this and made another one, it would have been a lot better, because I reckon they would have clicked just writing songs the second time around. Like, they did good on the last one. They could have done... This is where it just fell apart. It's like you had help because you have an extra guitarist and a vocalist who can write and all that sort of stuff. Like, you had help for Nicky, and it's just... okay. Baby throws toys out of the cot and the whole thing just fucking goes to shit.
It's almost like Van Halen too. You look at Sammy Hagar era, whether you like it or not is irrelevant, but he was a guitar player and a singer, and Eddie wanted nothing to do with him on the guitar. I'll fucking write the songs, you just sing them.
You could have done
Why
so much
not
more.
use the extra?
Yeah, exactly. I don't get it. It's an interesting one.
So.
This is odd. Afraid was cool though. I didn't mind it. It's got some cool groove. Interesting layering the vocal parts on that one. Some bits hard pan. That's very different drum tones. Like you mentioned, guitar tones. The drum tones.
I hate the tones.
There's some fucking horrible drum tones going on. They used the studio last time around. They fucking abused the studio this time around. Flush has an almost Stone Temple Pilots vibe going on that one. Generation Swine is probably the most obnoxious track on this one in the good way, kind of a thing. Like, if that sound like Vince sounds like Vince on Generation Swine. But for me, the highlight is the detail in the production. Not that it's great, but just how much detail that there is in it. The bottom end was weird here. You've got this thing that's so rumbly it's almost clipping, but then you've got this use of depth and space, which just makes the whole thing just sound chaotic to listen to. The performances are proficient. Everything's good in that regard. You know, the production, it may not be to taste, but they did it. They executed okay. It's not
really
execution-wise, as in the tones they captured, the way it was blended, that sort of stuff. Like, in the actual execution of it, does it work as a listen? I mean, in that
very
case,
disjointed for me. Like, fuck.
In terms of execution and layering, I'll say they did that part right. Like I said, they abused it though. They went too many things at the same time. No one was willing to tell anyone to back off, and this is like apparently Scott Humphrey and Nicky were fucking button heads like nothing else in the studio, and I'm like, makes kind of fucking sense. But this is a band that's just fired Bob Rock as well. You know, and it's like,
At least you could handle all this sounding sonically good.
Yeah.
Which is what Bob Rock would have brought to it. You know, this is just fucking, you know.
It's just like they went, let's just do whatever. And they did that. It's just like, I don't know what they were doing here. Like, it's disjointed. Like, the whole thing as a listener is just...
It's like getting a rap producer to a metal band, you know? Like, it's not going to work. You're going to get a different flavour of that album because it's just... They're coming from two different backgrounds, you know?
Scott's done some really good things.
In the rock market, though? Or
more the industrial side.
That's what I mean. Like, it's not their forte. Like, you're getting a producer out of... You know, it's like getting a hip-hop artist to go and work with fucking Slayer. You know?
That'd be interesting. Not saying I like it, but it'd be interesting.
You know, the production's going to be fucking... What the fuck's Slayer sounding like these days? Because sonically they're drilled into something that... This
also feels like the writing was a case of... It was the first time you felt like they weren't writing songs, they were putting together ideas.
Yeah.
You know, like they were cobbling together ideas. Like, here's a riff, here's a verse, here's some lyrics.
And here's a bunch of effects we can put over the top of it.
You know, that'll work, as opposed to jamming up the songs. This doesn't feel
I don't
like
know, but you hear some good...
There's good
low
moments.
harmonies where you go, that sounds... And you can hear John all over it. It's like, well, why did you go away from the core of that, maybe that pre-chorus or whatever? Because, like you said, there's some really strong moments.
There's moments.
But within the song, like, it could be 45 seconds, and before you get it again, it's another 2 minutes of whatever the fuck was going on.
It doesn't flow. That's why it's ideas being showcased, not songs being showcased.
Yeah, fair point. Yeah.
Which in turn makes this a lot weaker than the previous album. Because like I said, they could have trimmed maybe 30 seconds to a minute off some of the songs, but the songs were solid.
Yeah.
This has none of that going for it. No one's touched on Glitter yet.
Oh, fuck. I don't even fucking... You know what Glitter's good on? The Greatest Hits. When they did an acoustic version of it.
Okay, yeah.
That is actually is not a bad fucking song. This with this bullshit.
It's a dance number.
Whatever the fuck. I don't even know what it is.
I think of the acoustic version of Listen, because
the Greatest Hits is good.
Like I said with Afraid, you can hear underneath all the crap they put on top of it.
No. If you've got the Motley Crue Greatest Hits, there's a Glitter acoustic.
Okay.
And it sounds good. It sounds really good. I like it. Yeah. But this fucking thing. Fuck.
Anybody out there?
It sounds like somebody fucking... Sorry to cut you off. And I do it all
Welcome
the time.
back.
Yeah. This will be my last show for the year. But,
it will be.
That's it. I'm going out pissing off everyone. The Motley vibe.
Going out swinging.
But that keyboard, it's almost like someone doesn't know how to play.
Yeah.
You know?
And from the previous stuff that I'm like Home Sweet Home.
And then like the echo or whatever the fuck it is. And it's just that
and this is about
in and
Home
out
Sweet Home with piano.
bullshit.
Yeah.
They did Home Sweet Home with piano and then do that. It's just like, really?
Yeah, but when you listen to the original Home Sweet Home, it was done on a fucking Casio fucking Kmart
I know.
thing.
But
you know?
they...
When they redone it on Decade...
The version they released...
The redone one on Decade...
Oh, the redone one does sound...
That's actually done on a proper grand
that
fucking
sounds
piano.
better, yeah. But
and
at
you
the
didn't
same
see
time...
it in the video.
But even though the original one sounds better than what you got on this, in terms of using the piano or synth or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, no, granted.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't hard to beat. But so the bar's pretty low. But the re-recording does sound a lot better. I'll say that for sure. Anybody out there is this almost industrialized 60s punk track, which is just, what the fuck were you on there? Let us pray tries to inject some venom into this listen, but it falls short. A Rat Like Me is one of the few cohesive actual songs.
Yeah.
That feels like a song when you listen to this one. I think Shout at the Devil is, I get it, but it's redundant on the album. And Brandon, I mean, I get it, but don't do it.
Was that the kid that punched him in the face? Like that?
I think so.
Yeah, I'd
maybe this is why.
My fucking song, Dad.
My dad wrote a song like that for me, and he's a people fucking heard it, and I'd punch him right in the face
right in the kisser.
At least 8 times a year.
Once a month.
And if you re-release it like you have with bonus fucking shit, that's 16 punches.
Safe to say they've hit a low point on this one. I think this is the first time you've seen all the outside pressure on this band just fucking make it all implode. Die Hard fans only for this. I struggled to find my threes, but I found 3 standouts. I got a 4 out of 10. I picked Afraid, Rat Like Me, and Beauty were my standouts.
Fuck.
I mean, Beauty was scraping the barrel.
Yeah, how? I would have gone
at least
anybody out there over that.
Yeah, no, but I at least remember it in my head. That's why. It's like, maybe it's not the best thing, but I can hear it in my head. Like, it has some memorability to it. Like the rest, yeah, whatever. Like, or if it's in your head, you don't want it to be in your head.
Yeah,
I know you may say the same
be.
thing about beauty, but...
Yeah, that's like getting a COVID test through your prostate. Nah.
Are you speaking
You
from
don't want
experience?
that. No.
Just cough
Beauty,
for me.
Beauty wasn't playing at the time. It was actually Brandon.
I got fucking Brandon in my head. I'm not putting that as a standout though.
I love you. She's your mum. Fucking, I hate
She
that.
gave birth to you with love. It's
yeah.
like, what else did you... Oh, fuck. Lyrically, that's the pits.
Oh, fucking Jesus. Set Tommy on fire for that.
This is the same guy that brought us Planet Boom. Hang on, Planet Boom is actually pretty cool, though. I'll pay credit to that one.
It's okay.
Not everyone's going to like it, but I reckon it's an interesting track. Dave will hate it. I guarantee Dave hates Planet Boom. But I don't mind the industrialised riffing on art. It's way off topic anyway, we're not doing that one. Let's move on to what we are doing next.
Yes.
Let's go to New Tattoo.
Alrighty.
11 tracks, 43 minutes, the 8th studio album of the American band, released July 2000 via Motley Records and 11-7 Music. Produced by Mike Klink at Cello Studios and Can-Am Studios in California. One single was released in Hell on High Heels. Another album that didn't make the heights. This one peaked number 41 in the US, so they're still sliding downwards actually. Number 176 in the UK, number 17 in Japan. It's been only certified gold in the US, and that is for the DVD, not for the album. Just for the record there.
How could you? With that fucking hooker from Hull on drums.
Yep.
Fuck, I hate her.
The hooker from Hull.
Well, I don't know her fucking name. I fucking hate that bitch on the
Maybe that's
drums.
for the band name.
I didn't rehearse it either.
We're not talking about Courtney.
Let's not go down that
I don't know
path.
what her fucking name is.
Don't
but
go
it's
down that fucking
shit.
hole.
Oh my god. Anyway, so the DVD was the one that got certified, not the album itself. This is the band's only album without Tommy Lee because he cracked the shits and left. Ozzy Osbourne drummer Randy Castillo came into things. This album sees them return more to their direct sort of style of music. Nicky Sixx claiming this is the album he would have liked to have had succeed Dr. Feelgood. Nice to say in hindsight though.
Mm-hmm.
Go for it. I think it's you first.
Okay. Trying to recapture the glory days I found with this one. Close Enough wasn't good enough. I think.
Still got more going for it though.
Oh, look, you.
It's, I mean, yeah.
As soon as you take out all the
other.
other shit from the previous album, of course, but because I wrote songs here.
Yeah, that's true.
You know,
Yeah, that's true.
My biggest thing for me, Randy wasn't the right fit.
It's too straight. Is that the? Is that? Am I thinking?
All that element of rhythm that Motley had, it's not there. It's just he's not the right drummer. Like I love him with Ozzy.
Yeah.
I don't like him on this album. Like he just wasn't he's not a rock drummer.
He's got no. He hasn't got the swing.
He plays. Yeah, he needs to be straight on, and they needed groove. Tommy's one of the best groove drummers you can ever come across, and that was not the right guy to get because the songs just don't have the same.
There's no swagger to them.
No, not at all. And I think it hurts the songs a lot. And I find it hard to listen to. I find it grating on my ears. I don't know. Maybe it's because I am a drummer and whatever. I have an affiliation, and he was a big influence. But I just thought Motley was not Motley at all. And you could say that for the last album, but at least Tommy was there, and some parts still had that
a bit of
grind about it. There's a certain way Tommy plays that, few and far people do it. And I really feel that Mick and Nicky suffered. Because it doesn't gel. It just doesn't feel right.
Well, Mick can't launch if Nicky's not gelling with the drummer, and that rhythm syncopation wasn't the same.
I really find the drums horrible on the album. I find them really bad, and it really hurts the songs. Look, there's some good moments, some different moments. There's some tempo changes, all the things that you wanted from earlier albums, which you didn't always get. Just sounds really dated, the album. We're talking about 2000, and it sounds like straight out of 1986. You know, like I find the production doesn't really lend itself to a late 90s, 2000 era album. I don't need to hear that. I'm not talking about industrial or anything. I'm just talking about sonically. You know, you go back to the self-titled album, then you're coming out with something like this. This sounds like it's way back, you know.
Yeah,
they went too far back, because if you listen to the songs that they did on the greatest hits, which would be Bitter Pill and Enslaved, they were still moving in a way that Decade of Decadence were picking up from. And I think those are the two songs that actually got it right from, say, Primal Scream, Angela and Teaser.
Yep.
You know, they were the
it's funny how on the compilation they ended up with better tracks than they got on the albums. Does that make... It's weird.
Yeah. But that was the right production sound. It just seemed to be... That was Motley. Again, Bob Rock knew. He pulled it back. Don't make it so, you know, big and sonically sounding, because that becomes metal and it's not for Motley. So they got it right on those two songs. This here sounds very dated, although I don't mind it.
Yep.
I gave it a 6 out of 10. I don't love it. It's not an album I'll go to often. You know, Porno Star was a great song, but it sounds like a try-hardish a little bit.
Yeah, it doesn't. That feels like they're forcing it a little bit, that one.
Punch in the Teeth by Love is probably the closest thing you'll get from anything from Shout at that particular time.
But it's funny, I found that one to be a bit of a weaker track, to be honest. It was like the riff is cool.
I just like that punch in the teeth, teeth by love, and it starts driving, you know, it's sort of that
the energy
rolling
is cool.
feel, you know.
Just the lyrics put me off on that one.
Hell on High Heels, which was an old song, I believe, they just put it out. But you could tell why they did it.
Yeah, it's the right one.
And I thought First Band on the Moon was a decent song. I didn't mind that. I thought it was a little bit different, a little bit of a longer intro. Something that Motley hadn't really done to that point, a lot of. 6 out of 10. It's not mind-blowing or anything. I can see why it flies under the radar and doesn't do a great deal, but hardcore fans will enjoy it. You won't run out and fucking get the Japanese version for $200.
No.
But it's all right.
Yeah.
But it sounds a little dated for me.
Yeah. Cool. That you?
Yeah. I only heard this album about 2 years ago. Just because I remember seeing it when it came out. I looked at the cover, checked out the red inside, everything. It's just like, okay, Motley Crue, another album. Meh, not interested. But yeah, I needed something to listen to. Driving home from work one day, chucked on Spotify, and I thought it was pretty cool. Listened to it a couple of times then, and listening to it again for this review process, this is pretty fucking cool. I do like this, and the more you listen to it, the more it grows on you.
I'll tell you what I do like, the artwork. The packaging of that album, I thought really suited the album.
Yeah,
it's funny how it's all a play on things with Tattooed Millionaire and the
story behind that.
Yeah,
that's a funny story. Yeah. But yeah, it's a stripped down album. They're not overproducing it. They're trying to be modern or experimental. Very the
last one.
Yeah, it's like this is them just trying to be back to basics. And if you think about what was going on at the time, you had the garage rock resurgence, like the fucking the Hives and the Strokes and the fucking So it was kind of a good decision to just make it simple again. And Motley Crue was starting to get some hype again. People were starting to be into it. You had VH1 doing documentaries on them, Guitar Hero at the time. So it's just like, hey, let's get things. If fucking Tommy Lee had been on this, it might have been. Yeah, and I get what you're saying. It's kind of a flat production.
It is. It's very dated. I find it very dated.
You know, they were going for simple, and as you said, they stripped down maybe a bit too much.
They went too far back.
But the songs are there, though, so I think that's cool. And I did like Randy Castillo on this. I thought that he fit their sound. It was different. It didn't have that groove and that punch that Tommy brings to it. But it was something different. And, it's for a long time, first time in a long time, to actually sound like Motley Crue again, to me. Because I didn't like the previous two.
At least the opening track made you feel like you were back at Motley Crue kind of thing. Like it opened up like a Motley Crue record.
And lyrically, it's just like, these are the song topics that I want Motley to be singing.
Yeah, that was a change back.
It's like, thank you. The partying, the chicks, the rock and roll lifestyle. This time, it's all there, but they've got 20 years of not maturity to draw upon, but reflection.
I was about to say, maturity is probably the right word for these guys.
Not maturity, but experience.
Yeah.
They've been burnt a few times, and they got that as something to draw songs on.
Yeah.
Vince sounds pretty good on this. He delivers the lyrics with that fun wink that he used to. He sounds like Vince again. Yeah. They're getting the fucking band back together. It's like before Aerosmith released Pump, they had Permanent Vacation, which is a pretty good album, but nobody gives a shit because Pump came out afterwards. Yeah. Before Alice Cooper released Trash, he had Raise Your Fist and Yell. Yeah. This is the album before Saints of Los Angeles.
Yeah.
So it's overshadowed, but there's some great moments in here. Mick Mars has some fucking killer solos on here. And Nicky's lyrics are probably the best he's done in a long time. Punch in the Teeth by Love, catchy hook in the chorus, man. And I think they're kind of channeling AC/DC with that.
Yeah.
I could hear AC/DC doing that song.
Yeah, yep. I agree.
Yeah. There's some nice acoustic moments, the title track and Hollywood Ending, and break things up a little bit. It would be the most underappreciated album in the catalogue, which I think probably due to the time that was released.
I think it's probably pretty fair, actually.
Yeah.
This one's overlooked and probably doesn't need to be as overlooked as it is.
Yeah.
Well, the band overlooks it. They don't play nothing.
It's a shame.
You know,
so I'd like, just shove a couple of songs. I'd like to hear Tommy Lee's take.
Why is Iron Maiden, Bruce Dickinson can do some Blade stuff?
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, no, I think it's more to do with Randy Castillo passing away than anything else.
Yeah, but isn't that more of a nod to the?
I would think so, but
so
who knows what they're thinking.
Yeah, they tried to fit in with the times of the previous couple of albums. Now they realise what works best for them. Just be them.
Yeah.
They've got their established audience, and I'm disappointed I overlooked it 20 years ago. But now they've heard it, it's a pretty fucking good album. I gave it 8.5 out of 10.
Okay.
Probably the most standouts I've given in a while. Hell on High Heels, New Tattoo, First Bound on the Moon. That's a fucking great song. Punch in the Teeth by Love and Fake. I like Nicky venting a little bit on that song, Fake.
I know what you mean. All right. Mm-hmm. Hell on High Heels is the opener we've been looking for a couple of albums now. You hear that and you go, okay, this is what I'm looking for. They're older, a bit more grizzled, but the spark's kind of back again. I understand what's being said about the drumming. I agree with it as well. But whilst it's straighter, there's less swing and feel. At least this feels like they're on track and they've written complete songs as opposed to shoehorning ideas together on this one. The production's more direct. It's all there's a lot less going on. There's not a lot of tricks here. Tones down the line. It's still warm. Got a bit of bite to it. It feels like the chains have been taken off too. Like there's no way. I understand that this may not be Mick Mars' finest work, but it's a lot better because he had a lot more freedom on these songs than on the previous ones. And I understand the rhythm isn't quite there, but at least, like I said, it felt like they're getting there. This feels more like a Motley Crue record again. They have incorporated a couple of elements from the last two albums into this one, though, so they haven't completely ignored what they've done, but they've sort of found the best parts of it and incorporated it in a little bit here. Treat Me Like The Dog I Am has sort of a grungy feel, but it's not forced. It's not they've integrated that into being where they are now, to where they've come, and a bit of their past from before. So it's a good little overall snapshot song. New Tattoo is a good ballad. I really do enjoy that ballad. I know it's a bit cheesy, the lyrics aren't that fantastic, but in terms of having a good hook and having a nice tonal quality to it, and the performance across it was a nice little touch on this record.
I thought they were the weaker moments, the ballads and the Hollywood Ending and New Tattoo.
New Tattoo I enjoyed. Like I said, you do notice Castillo's drumming. It's much more direct. That impacts the whole album on this one. I think it's, compared to the last album in particular, it straightened them up, which is a nice change. So whilst I understand it's not what we want because Tommy's not there, at the same time this is better than what we just had because it feels they're playing. It's more direct, it's straighter, but it's got that flow to it as opposed to...
it's a rock album, let's face it. So.
Yeah. I can live with this one compared to the previous one. I think First Band on the Moon, it's been talked about, it's a bit of a nonsense track for mine, but at the same time there's this undeniable energy and feel to it. You can just feel like when you get to this point in the album, you feel like things are definitely a lot smoother than they were.
It's that hook in the chorus, which is what Motley was about. They had some really big hooks.
Yep.
So,
She Needs Rock and Roll has some groove to it. The lyrics aren't their strongest on this and tracks like Punch in the Teeth by Love, but the riff in Punch in the Teeth, that is a good fucking buy-in point. And you'll see later on that the way that song is performed, the lyrics I'll ignore because the song itself is pretty fucking good. They haven't fallen completely into the trap of trying to rehash the old days. I understand that it's an older sounding, older styled album, but they haven't just fallen completely in because they've tried to bring some of what they've just done into this one. So it's a callback to the old days without being a full-blown nostalgia trip for mine. I think letting Mick Mars off the hook a bit helps a lot in that regard. I think the way they... I thought New Tattoo was a bit too early in the album when I was listening to it, but then when you get Hollywood Ending, it's not the best, but it's not a bad style track. But the way they've spaced both those songs on the album, so it helps to break it up and give it sort of phases to go through. Yeah, there's not a lot of tricks here. The stuff is just gone. It's just let's get some good tones, just mix it right, and they're not even playing with panning that much. There's a bit of it, but not a heap of it, and they're just sort of okay, let's just make a direct album, which suits what they're doing at the time, and probably was needed after all this one. Fake is an interesting one for me. I like it. It's cool that he's taking a shot at the industry, but at the same time, I find it a little bit interesting that Nicky in particular in this case, taking a shot at the industry, when they've probably done more damage to themselves along the way than the industry, quote unquote, would have done to them either.
They were the one chasing everything from 93 onwards.
Yeah.
Not
haven't
the industry making them do it.
Yeah. So they didn't do themselves any favours along the way either. So they've... Yeah, I found that one a bit sort of like, it's cool, but you get in the ring by Guns N' Roses has more believability.
Yeah.
Or more credit than this one does, for example, in the context of things. Pornostar starts out strong, but the last minute of that song I can kind of do without. It's just sort of like, yeah, what the fuck is the point of that? It's funny, but it gets old really quick. The cover wasn't a bad little way to end it.
White punks on.
Yeah, it wasn't a bad way to finish it off.
Yeah, I didn't mind that either.
I thought it was pretty good. It's a more solid album. It's a good listen. It's one of those ones that you'll get through it. It's not hitting the heights or anything like that, but I do think this is much more of what you're looking for, and it is probably overlooked more than it should be, generally speaking, by the people out there. So I gave this 7.5 out of 10. Hell on High Heels, New Tattoo, and Punch in the Teeth by Love, because even though the lyrics didn't grab me, the song is... Yeah. You can't fucking deny that song. You try as you might. Alright, last one. This is Saints of Los Angeles, 13 tracks, 44 minutes, the 9th studio album of the American band, released June 2008 via Motley Records and 11-7 Music. Produced by James Michael, Nicky Sixx, and DJ Ashba. We'll get to this in a second. 3 singles were released from this, including Motherfucker of the Year and the title track. This one sees the band return to more success, peaking number 4 in the US, number 78 in the UK, number 14 in Australia, along with a lot of chart positions all over the world. That said, it's only been certified gold in Canada to this point, so they're still on that downward trend in that regard.
I'm not your buddy, guy.
Yeah. That never gets old. This is the band's first with the original lineup since 1997's Generation Swine. Tommy Lee's making his return. This album is apparently very loosely based on The Dirt biography and sees the involvement of Nicky Sixx's other band with James Michael and DJ Ashba heavily involved in production and writing. And they also used Aerosmith collaborator Marty Fredrickson with the writing as well. So they got some help in for this one. Did it pay off?
Fuck yeah, it did. This album was fucking awesome.
Yep.
It's just what you want from a Motley Crue album, and especially at this point of their career, it's very fitting. They didn't just repeat what they did on Too Fast for Love or Dr. Feelgood. It would have been really sad if they just retraced that.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But it lives alongside that, because it's very much a Motley album. It's just Motley Crue 2008.
Yep.
We just get an album filled with reflection and celebration. They're not denying anything they did, but they're just like, yep, we lived it, and we're still here to tell the tale.
Yeah.
And we're going to have some fucking fun with it while we do it. Okay. Sure, a lot of the writing credits do go to James Michael and DJ Ashba. It could have effectively been a 6am album, but Mick Mars does get a lot of writing credits as well.
He does later on in the album.
And Nicky Sixx does write the majority of lyrics for Motley Crue. Yeah. So it works.
It's still Nicky's band at the end of the day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And to be fair, what bands don't bring alternative writers in?
To be honest, with where they've gotten to this point, that they got help and saw they needed help is actually a credit to
It's a good idea.
It worked.
They want to end their career on a high note, at least a recording way. And regardless of who wrote what, Motley sound on fire.
Sounds like Motley Crue, at least.
It does. The opening track, Face Down the Dirt, it's the best they've sounded on the album in fucking ages. And compared with the bland production of New Tattoo, this is more along the lines of what you want Motley Crue to sound
James Michael's underrated as a producer.
Yeah, they got a fucking great album. The songs are just a bunch of stories based on their career, their lives, and it's delivered with great hooks, riffs, solos, and humour. There's a wink. There's a knowing that they're self-aware. They know where their shortcomings are, what their strengths are. It's just like, well, the audience know. We know who our fan base are. They want this. We want to do it. So let's just get it fucking done.
Yep.
Everyone's going to go to the classics when you think Motley Crue, but if you want something outside of your standard greatest hits compilation or your live set, this would be the album to go to.
Yeah.
I find it really hard to fault this. Every song is fucking great. I gave it 9 out of 10. Face Down the Dirt, Down at the Whiskey, that's just taking you back.
It's nostalgic.
I wasn't even there. I wasn't even in school. But, you know, you can just...
You can feel it.
It's got that vibe. Yeah. Saints of Los Angeles again, you know, Welcome to the Machine, Chicks Equals Trouble, no shit with this band. And going out swinging. Going out swinging is a fucking good way to close it.
Yeah.
Chicks Equal Trouble, no shit.
Yeah, for me, this definitely is the closest thing to Feelgood in terms of a body of work that's very Motley. So you have to really go back 10 years, really, essentially, to get something close to what you thought the band should have been. But this, for me, is thank God Tommy's back.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Massive difference. Although his drumming's changed, he's doing different things. But it's, you know, a song like Saints of Los Angeles, which really is a part 2 of Wildside. It's just that groove, and you know, I remember seeing them on this tour when they come out, and I think it might have been Brett Michaels had to open up, or whatever was going on, and you just go, there it is, you know, that's the band, you know, it just sounds right again. This one for me would be the least amount of filler on the album. It sounds like a very strong album from the get-go.
It's a lean.
You know, it does tail off towards the end, like most albums do. You know, there's a couple of tracks I could do without. White Trash Circus and whatever. Like, they're good songs, but they, you know, when you compare it to stuff earlier in the album, like The Animal in Me is one of the best Crue songs ever written. That's just a fucking great.
That is up there.
You know, but it's sonically they got the sound right. You know, the only thing is, and I think it's because Vince's vocals had deteriorated at that point. It's very low in the mix. Like, it's probably too low, and I think they're hiding a lot of how bad he's probably sounding at this point in time. And
which is funny because he was actually really fit at that point in time.
Definitely on New Tattoo. If you look at the photos and that, it's the best I've seen him look since fucking probably shout. You know, but this is definitely, if this is going to be the last work, and let's not worry about the soundtrack fucking thing.
No, I'm not touching that. Don't touch that one.
Yeah, and it's a good way to go out. You know, this is exactly like you said. It is a Motley album. I don't mind the nostalgic thing of going back, singing about the whiskey or whatever, you know, because it's good, you know, like catchy songs, killer harmonies, really good riffs.
Gang vocals are good on this one.
Yeah.
Really
the heaviness was right. It wasn't too over heavy, but it wasn't underdone. It was.
It had the
they got it right. They got it right on this album. You know, it's a shame that there hasn't been 2 or 3 similar albums to really finish them off. You know, because you look at the 20 years Tommy was out of the band, and they got back. They did Reunion, did this, and that's it. Really, you know, it feels like they've got another 1 or 2 albums at least of this caliber of work.
You'd think so, but I'm not sure if I actually...
Not now, but at the time, I would have thought...
Yeah, true. At the time, they felt energised and they could go.
I'm glad they got the help, like you said. They definitely needed some perspective, I think, you know, and honing in and, you know, maybe some ego checking or just people they're comfortable with. And obviously, we know what DJ and fucking... The other dude, James did with Tom, with Nicky. So obviously he's comfortable with them. He likes them. So it brought out the best in the band. You know, so it's a really good way to finish it off. I gave it an 8.5 out of 10. Nice. I still don't reckon I ever wrote the complete, other than the self-titled. And we're not saying it's a Motley album, so we put it to the side. But they hadn't quite ever wrote the perfect
album.
You know, and it's not bad going for a band that's been around for so long. It's such a high level. You know, so Saints of LA, Motherfucker of the Year, Animal in Me, and Face Down in the Dirt. And my standouts.
Cool. Remember randomly finding this one because, you know, by this point in time, Motley Crue weren't really the go-to in the media and that anymore either. So I just walked by and gone, hang on, grabbed it, took it home, fell in love straight away. I was like, hang on, this is what you fucking wanted. I like the storyboard approach, and it's funny going through the albums. You listen to one, the next, and then you get to this one, and you can hear the stories being told in this album from the records before. Like, this is I'm going to make a point that I don't think we need another Motley Crue album now. I think this is the one...
It's the one to go out on.
To stop on.
Yeah.
Because this ties everything up.
Yeah.
I'm not sure they can beat this now.
Not now.
Maybe at the time.
2011, I could have expected a follow-up or something.
2022?
No.
I don't think they can do it.
There's too much water under the bridge now.
I think that they'd have to do something pretty fucking special. Now, apparently they're working on new stuff. I'm like, that fills me with trepidation because, this might have been the good swan song. It's not often you get to go on a high.
Yeah.
And they did it.
Yeah.
Like I said, the storyboard approach works on this one, capturing all the little vibes. There's no cheese, no cliche. They've done it really, really smart job. Like Down at the Whiskey is really full of nostalgia, but none of the whole, hey, we were fucking guns once, we're going to be guns again. It wasn't that. It was they're telling the time of when they were there.
Yeah.
And they did it so well. Face Down in the Dirt is like the start of it all, and they're just desperate to get out of there, like what's going to take and all that sort of stuff. Those songs are brilliant on this one. The lyrics on this are just the best we've heard for a while for mine. The storytelling is fantastic. All that shifts, though, with tracks like Motherfucker of the Year and the title track. That's when they're fucking at the peak of their powers. And they're like, they got all the fucking swag, the biggest set of balls in the world, and they're fucking telling everyone about it. And they're not... These songs don't come across as cocky. Yeah. It's all anecdotal. They're all telling the stories of the times, which is really hard to do. But the guitar work is fucking bang on. I know Tommy's not quite the same, but him being back with Nicky makes a big difference in how much swing this one has and the swagger. Like, I don't think you can... If Randy had survived and they tried to do Motherfucker of the Year, it wouldn't have worked. Mm-hmm. It works with Tommy. Because the way that Nicky and Tommy play off against each other against the beat was fucking really nice.
There's a chemistry that you don't get often.
And that allowed Mick to just do his thing. Yeah. And again, that allows Vince to do his thing. So Motley Crue is a unique beast. Dysfunctional as fuck, but it works for whatever reason. I love how it's got heart and passion in the storytelling on this one. I think the tones, the mixing is fantastic on this record. This sounds great, even now. I like how they pushed and pulled on the emphasis. So you got different things at different times. Yeah. It always worked, though. Nothing was out of place or overdone or underdone. It was the Goldilocks thing. They just made it all fit just right. The writing is the same. The performances are bang on. This just really clicked. It gets busy at times, but never too busy, and they've done it in just the right way. And it's captured little bits of everything. Like I said before, Motherfucker has a little bit of the things that maybe would have pushed your boundaries on previous albums, but they've incorporated it just right.
Don't even notice it.
Exactly, but there's little bits and pieces in this album. It just, it takes the whole thing. Animal in Me is such a dark turn in the album as well, which is fitting for when, they're falling off the wagon big time here.
When I was listening to this during the week, Julie was like, who are you listening to? Like, that's Motley Crue. Like, that doesn't sound like Motley Crue. Like, listen again. Yeah. It's like, okay, that is Vin. It's like, they usually do the upbeat sexist stuff. I'm like, but sometimes there's more to them than that.
And I loved how dark that got. That one there, Welcome to the Machine, is, clearly when they're being, tune you up, spit you out like a piece of meat kind of thing. They just, that's their shot at Elektra on the way through kind of thing. So this is really a good way of getting everything out of the system in the right way kind of thing for mine. They've really artistically done this incredibly well. It's doing a concept, it's not a concept, but virtually doing a concept album. It's a chapter themed album, to your own life and pulling it off without being arrogant or any of the other things about it. Fucking hard. Yeah. They've done a very good job.
To be honest with you, Kiss with Psycho Circus tried to do it and failed. Yeah. Big time.
Exactly. This is... I've not heard another band pull it off as well as this. Yeah. It's hard to do. And having the outside help has probably been what allowed that to happen. Let the musicians play, get help with the writing to make sure it's not too within the bubble. So they're telling it as the overall story, which is really cool. I don't know, I just liked, when you get toward the end of the album, Just Another Psycho, Chicks Equal Trouble tells again more of the falling apart of things, the pitfalls of the life, which is being really nicely displayed on this one here. You get some different gear changes. I think Tommy gets one writing credit on This Ain't a Love Song, and you can tell that he got a writing credit. Not in a bad way, but it just, if there was an outlier song on this record, that's probably the one that doesn't quite fit the overall theme, but it's still a very good song and has its place on there. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just if you're going to nitpick, that probably doesn't quite. But at the same time, it's still a very good song. There's something about the groove and the attitude and the swagger in that one that, you know, it's cool. The last two tracks, White Trash Circus and Going Out Swinging, they finished this. I know you weren't a huge fan of White Trash Circus, but
I don't hate it, but it's just...
But it sums up the band.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like, this is who we are.
Yeah.
We're a White Trash Circus.
Yeah.
Don't give a damn. You know, we'll steal your girls, we'll fuck up your shit, we're going to break it all down and we'll move on to the next town. That's what it's all about. Yeah. And then I love the... this is why I don't necessarily want... Because we've heard the track Sex come after this. And I like it, but Going Out Swinging, if that was the last song they wrote, I'd be happier with that. You know what I mean? Going Out Swinging is a really good way to close things out in terms of what we're doing here. So I like that song a lot, and I know that it's not the world's best song, but it just sums up where they're at, and they're just... You know they're not going to go riding off into the sunset. You know these guys are destined... They should have been fucking dead already.
Yeah.
You just know...
All of them, not just one. Like.
and so you know that... It's not, you know, there's no fairy tale ending. So ending on Going Out Swinging is kind of fitting in that regard for where I am on the outside looking in. I don't know, I like how this has played out. I think this is the perfect way to finish things off for the band. Especially now, maybe at the time if they'd have done another one like right after, when things were flowing, cool. But now so long after, I'm not sure we need something to follow this up with. But if they do, I'll be open-minded. But hard to wrap up a career better than this one here for mine. 9 out of 10. I really enjoy this one. Saints of Los Angeles, Going Out Swinging, Motherfucker of the Year. Just because that's also a really different track for this band.
Yeah.
Just the
it's fun
the pulse.
too.
Yeah. But I don't know, I love this album. I've loved it from the minute I got it, and I haven't fallen out of love with it ever since. All right, but that'll do for a little bit now. We'll take a quick break, and we'll come back in just a second.
Thanks, Andrew. Yeah, so Motley Crue, just like the other guys, I guess it's similar age. Got into around the Dr. Feelgood era. For them, the ultimate celebrity band. I think they kept drawing the attraction towards them with the headlines and that through the late 80s and the 90s with all their celebrity relationships and, you know, obviously Vince's car accident and that Hanoi Rocks drummer demise there. I think ideally throughout it all, I think regardless of the music, they've always kept in that kind of spotlight, and that's always kept your ear and your eyes open to look at them in tabloids and that as you're growing up. But and all your magazines growing up, like Hot Metal and buying all those things, and Kerrang and Metal Hammer, they always seem to be on the front pages or thereabouts in their heyday. But I think Shane said before, I think regardless of they're a fucking great live band, and I just don't care whether Vince is out of shape these days. I still think he'd still get your value for money from them. Tommy's always been the star of the show for me with his drum riser with the cage back in the Dr. Feelgood era, and then obviously I think it was Crucified back in the most recent one when he hit Australia. So I said my mate and I, Lane, were close. We always seem to go to their gigs with them all the time, and just talked about going back across that American tour that was announced last year. But fingers crossed they may end up back here in Australia. But yeah, their music for me is the soundtrack, I think, from my adolescent years, I think, and all other bands in the era, but they've always been probably my favourites. And one thing I'm probably looking forward to in terms of TV viewing in the next couple of months, I think Hulu is producing the first viral video show at the moment. Tom and Pammy is coming on with Seth Rogen starring coming out in February. So as I said, it's always something about them. They always seem to draw headlines and spotlight, but just always got a soft spot for them in my heart, and they just always deliver when you go watch them live. Never leave disappointed, even if I said Vince doesn't put on a great vocal performance. I just always find that you seem to get your value for money. So yeah, they're from the albums wise, I think besides Dr. Feelgood, I think that is their most complete album. But before that, I think Shout at the Devil, and the step up from their debut. The debut was great. I think just the production was a bit understated then. So I think with the Shout at the Devil is a bit of an improvement in their production values. Although I must admit the debut with the cowbell use in there is always something that just emanates. I love the use of cowbell within hard rock metal songs, and just throughout their catalogue, there's not much that really disappoints me. So yeah, Thank you.
We're back. Time now to go through some little bonus bits and pieces at the end of the episodes like we always do. And so now is the time where we kick off by doing things like we rank the albums from worst to best at the end of the experience of going through them all one by one. So we'll start with Mick first, go from worst to best.
All right, I think this is a no-brainer between the three of us at least,
Yeah.
but Generation Swine would be my number 9, followed by Theatre of Pain,
Okay.
followed by Girls, Girls, Girls. Number 6 would come in with New Tattoo.
Okay.
Number 5 would be Too Fast for Love. Number 4, Dr. Feelgood.
Okay.
Number 3 is Saints of Los Angeles. Number 2, Shout at the Devil.
Which is what Caesar's doing now.
And number 1, self-titled.
Ah, very cool. Yep. Nice. Dave.
Yeah, from worst to best, Generation Swine is down the bottom. Then Motley Crüe, Theatre of Pain, Shout at the Devil, Girls, 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 New Tattoo, Dr. Feelgood, Saints of Los Angeles, and my number 1 is Too Fast for Love.
Okay.
Or if you're Vince Neil these days, Too Fat for Love. Try listening to that song again.
Too fat for love. Come on, baby.
You know what would be
Give me
funny
another
if you actually
chance.
performed it that
Too
way live?
fat.
It is
Too Fat.
I'll share my fries with you, baby.
Now the drink's kicking in, folks. All right, I'm going to go through mine. We start off similar, you and I, and then we're all going to go in different directions after that. So, number 9, Beyond. So, Generation Swine were unanimous. That is the worst one. I agree with you. Theatre Pain after that one. Jodie will kill me because she likes that one a lot.
She's a weirdo.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's...
She married me. What do you expect?
Oh, there you go.
Then you've got New Tattoo after that for me. Motley Crüe. Now, it's weird to put it in, like, it might seem low, but the scores I gave them, it's me sort of splitting them by hairs at this point in time. So then Too Fast for Love, then Dr. Feelgood, Saints of Los Angeles, number 3, Girls, 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 number 2, and Shout at the Devil, number 1 for me. So
We're all over the place.
we are.
It's good.
So, Dave, now I'm going to get you to go through your tracks.
Cool. These are kind of chronological depending on the albums. I just took it from that way.
Yep.
Okay, Live Wire. Take Me to the Top, Piece of Your Action, Starry Eyes, Too Fast for Love, Shout at the Devil,
The Thick Shake remix.
Looks That Grill Kill, Home Sweet Home, Wild Side, Girls, no, Girls.
Grill.
You're All That I Need, Kickstart My Heart, Primal Scream, which is probably my favourite Motley Crue song, Punched in the Teeth by Love, and Saints of Los
How
Angeles.
many was that? Well, that feels like
15.
45.
It's 15.
Okay.
15.
I found this really hard to do.
It's really challenging.
I
isn't
had
it?
20
Yeah.
and I had 22 and had to cut it by
It's
7.
hard.
Yeah, I found it really difficult because I was trying to think for the casual fan, and then if I was a hardcore fan, what you would want to get as a remastered or something, you know.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
It's pretty upsetting to do this, to be honest with you. It's
I know.
very,
I
very
know.
difficult.
It's
All
funny
right.
how it's harder to do this than it is to rank the albums.
Yeah.
Do you know what I
Oh,
mean?
100%.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, even some of the lesser songs I like more than
Yeah.
some of the more well-known stuff. So, you know, how do you sort of balance it out, I guess?
Yep.
So,
I took off Dr. Feelgood. It's a great song, but I wouldn't put it in my top 15 because there's other songs that are better.
Okay. Cool.
yeah, but if you're doing a best of,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the
You
thing.
know.
I
isn't
made
it?
it a personal favourite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, well, there's
Anyway.
no real hard and fast rules. It's
Yeah.
however you want to approach it. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, my top 15 for Motley starts off with Live Wire. I think that's just a go-to song, yeah.
Yep.
I went into Afraid.
Yep.
Another song, and there's a bit of a, I guess, one for the fans, because they'd know it, but not many people would. But
Yep.
Bitter Pill, which is
Yeah.
one of the newest songs of the Greatest Hits.
Yeah.
I thought it was a really
Cool.
good song.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Into Dr. Feelgood.
Mm-hmm.
So I tried to make it flow too.
Yeah.
So, and I thought this album does get neglected a lot by the band, but Punch in the Teeth by Love, I thought if there's going to be one song that sort of rounds out
Yep.
that album, that's the one. definitely wasn't going to forget about the Karabi era of the band.
Yeah.
So Smoke the Sky is one that, even if you weren't a big fan of it, you might like that song anyway.
I think it's an easy one for anyone to get into.
Yeah, and then you go into Wild Side after that.
Yep, cool.
All right.
Nice.
Then Shout at the Devil after that. So I've gone really big.
Wow, cool.
Then into Home Sweet Home, just to get you to calm down a little bit.
Yeah.
All right, but still.
I like where you're going.
Yeah. Then into Angela, which is another song from Decade of Decadence, which, I don't even know the story of that, because if you look at the liner notes, it just it doesn't have any information. They won't reveal what's that all about. Then obviously some newer stuff. Saints of Los Angeles was really the fitting song to sort of round out the band, really, and who they are.
Yep.
And one for the fans, but it's one that I love from an album that I don't rate. Tonight We Need a Lover. I just love that song, and I think that'd be a nice little remixed, remastered version to have. Kickstart My Heart you had to have, and I put it towards the end to sort of finish the album on a high, and then another Karabi song, Hammered, because I think that's one of the better songs on the album. And then going back to the beginning again, so the bookends of from the first album, A Piece of Your Action.
Very nice. Cool. I'm going to quickly scroll back down through mine to get there, which is not too far away now, actually. So
that's all right. We're on the third commercial.
All right, so for my one, I didn't really do anything in particular. I just went through, I tried to do a cross-section with these ones, so I just tried to do a generalised cross-section. There's no particular order, but at the start of this, I put a couple of personal ones that are going in there just because they're like, captain's picks as opposed to what I think that, everyone should hear kind of thing. So I'm going to put Primal Scream in there along with On With The Show. Those ones, I love those too, so they're going in. Piece of Your Action, I like that one. Shout at the Devil, I don't think you can't put that in there. Looks That Kill, I put that one in there as well. That's a nice one. Home Sweet Home, I think you're going to put a ballad in there, that's the one you're going to put in there. But I also put All in the Name Of.
Okay.
I love just the...
Yeah, I love that song too. I just couldn't fit it.
As soon as you said it, you just hear that riff.
Yeah. And that's one of those ones where if you want to hear when they go on into the bluesier side of things, that's the one I think that anchors that down. Wild Side with that too. Kickstart My Heart, Dr. Feelgood, both of those ones, I just think you can't have a greatest collection and not put those ones in there. I know that they're played to death and all those things, but whatever else. But then I put Smoke the Sky. So I think that if you want to hear some Karabi, I think that's the best one.
And he screams in that song.
Yeah, that's so good, that song. But then Afraid, I tried to, like I said, to give a cross-section.
Which is what I tried to do. I tried to touch...
Try and touch on everything. So
everything,
that's with Hell on High Heels as well in that respect. So they're the best songs from those respective albums. But then off the last album, Saints of Los Angeles and Going Out Swinging were my final choices.
It's not a bad best off
for this one. So between this, you got some different choices. Make sure you let us know what you would put in your... rank the albums for yourself, and then let us know what your top 15 tracks are, because right now I've got the audience rankings that we've done the polling across all of our socials. So this is on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok for what the people ranked albums and for songs. So I've got a bit here to go through. So there was absolutely no love at all for Generation Swine. So that went right down the bottom. Surprise, surprise. It's unanimous across the board here. Then going from least popular to most popular, you got New Tattoo, Saints of Los Angeles.
Wow, it's that far down.
Yeah, overlooked album, I reckon. Girls, 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 Theatre of Pain. Motley Crüe actually did alright, got about the halfway mark, which is surprising in the context. Top 3.
I think a lot of people have gravitated more toward it after the fact.
Not at the time. Top 3, it was always going to be these top 3, I reckon, but the finishing order might be a bit more surprising than you think. Shout at the Devil, number 3. Dr. Feelgood, number 2, which leaves Too Fast for Love as being the audience favourite out there. So it's an interesting sort of way to look at things.
It is.
So
they should have quit by 1982. One of the greatest band of all time. The most notorious. Yeah, okay, all right.
All right. And then for the audience voting of the tracks, now there's a lot that got nominated. So just for ones that got nominated, you got All in the Name of Bastard. So you got some other ones in here too. City Boy Blues, Dancing on Glass, Down at the Whiskey, Drag Strip Superstar, Dropping Like Flies, Enslaved, Face Down in the Dirt, First Man on the Moon, Hammered, Louder Than Hell, Misunderstood, Piece of Your Action, Poison Apples, Saints of Los Angeles, Smoke in the Boys Room, Sticky Sweet, Too Young to Fall in Love, Use It or Lose It, You're All I Need. They just got nominated.
Piece of Your Action just got nominated.
Yeah, just got nominated.
And we put it in our best of.
I know.
Fucking hell.
That's where we're very different. Ones that got a little bit more love than that, got nominated and then seconded kind of thing, were Danger, Starry Eyes, Take Me to the Top, and 10 Seconds to Love. So we're being a bit brutal with the popular ones here. So now, instead of being 15, because there were some ties along the way with it, always are with these sorts of things, these are the honourable mention or split 15th kind of tracks. So you had Knock 'em Dead Kid, On With the Show, and Save Our Souls. So there's some different ones there. Then you go into your top 14 at the end after that. So going from least popular to most in this order. So Don't Go Away Mad, Hooligan's Holiday, Primal Scream, and Red Hot were in the bottom bracket. Then you got Girls, 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 and Smoke the Sky on level pegging. Dr. Feelgood, Home Sweet Home, Looks That Kill make up the next bracket. Kickstart My Heart and Shout at the Devil make up the next bracket. So your top three, so equaled second, are Live Wire and Wild Side. And the top track was Too Fast for Love.
It is a good song.
It is a good song. Yeah. So there's some differences between our takes and what is popular with the audience, which is actually pretty cool, but that's why it makes these ones interesting. So just make sure you give us your thoughts out there. I don't know. Anything else you guys wanted to say on those before we move on to our closing thoughts for the night?
Motley's definitely a band that has something for everyone.
It does.
Everyone just gravitates to what resonates with them. I think that's what made this band so endearing for so long.
Yep.
Even if they didn't release a decent album for a long period of time, people just went back to the classics and they could still tour off that because they wrote fucking great songs.
They helped that by the compilation albums too.
Yeah.
Smart marketing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, you could rate any compilation album as a 10, whereas their normal albums be struggling to get past a 9.
Yeah. Well, that was, you mentioned it before we went out there. It's like it's been funny tonight because none of us gave any individual album a 10.
Yeah.
Which is unusual in a tribute. Oh, sorry, you did. You gave a 10.
I gave the self-titled.
You gave the classic.
Yeah, the classic era, no.
Yeah.
But what makes Motley stand out is there's not another band that sounds like them.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
You know, and in the era
like
of an abundance of that style of band, where a lot of them were faceless, they had something. You know.
Yeah.
Whether you liked it or not is irrelevant. When you heard it, you knew it.
Yeah.
You know. And you fast knew it, and that's something you've got to respect. You know, whether you love the band or not, you've got to respect how they were able to ride this wave, just going up for the longest time. But when they turned, it turned badly, and it stayed down for a few years. It wasn't a 1 or 2 year period.
No,
it was the better part of the 90s. They were down and out, but you know, somehow they were able to turn it around and then give us an album that really finishes on a high. So you know, it's a testament that there is some talent there, whether you like it or not. You know,
I don't think you can.
Yeah, but a lot of these bands can fall under. It's only through one person, or it's this actually was a collective.
Yeah, all four people were very
components.
Unique.
Yes,
and they clicked best when they worked together. Yeah, and that was shown when they had the live show. I know you liked the self-titled one the most.
I think that's the best crafted album.
Yeah.
But under the Motley Crue banner, it probably doesn't work at all. We've discussed that. But, you could... They plateaued for a couple of albums, and then there was a massive growth between 88 to 92. Mm-hmm. When you look at Feelgood, and then you look at Decade of Decadence, and those 3 or 4 songs, they just... Mate, you can't compare how many levels that is in a short amount of time. Yes, it's 8 years of touring. Yes, it's 8 years of hanging out. But it's also, crafting your own instrument and then bringing it together in the form. Yeah. You can write great songs, but if you can't play them with somebody, then they're not songs. Yeah. You know what I mean? And they're good songs.
Your unique personality that you put into
and all
music.
The parts all fit. And it's one of those bands. Unfortunately, for better or for worse, you can't replace it. At all. And they've tried it, and it failed. And there's a reason why.
But for all their faults, they're one of the few bands that actually have the full original lineup still together to this day.
The fact they're all still alive is a fucking miracle.
Yeah. That is insane in itself.
Yeah.
You know, the characters and their individual personalities and lifestyles kind of overshadowed the music at times, but then the music would always come back, and just like, well, they wouldn't still be touring if fans didn't want to hear them play their songs.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think just going back to when I became a fan in 1990 when I was a kid, and then the following year they released Decade of Decadence. Those 2 new songs on that, if they had the whole album of that and they continued, you know, with Vince, they could have really been higher than what they were, because Dr. Feelgood took them to that. If they followed that up, but then the whole world changed. Musically, it changed. So I don't know.
I wonder how different music history would have been if they'd done that.
It's interesting because you look at bands that are doing that, and then you look at the successes. So you can use Def Leppard as Stereo as an example. You can use Guns N' Roses Appetite.
Yeah.
But then at Guns N' Roses,
they followed up with Visual Illusion, and
but that was before the change.
Yeah.
I would have loved to have heard Chinese Democracy in '96 or '95. Or something, you know, where would it have sat? How would it would have been perceived?
If Visual Illusion came out in '93, it wouldn't have done as well. Just a 2-year period. They've graced in. Motley didn't release a new album. Aerosmith released Get a Grip in '93. Well, it changed by then. It wasn't as successful as Pump.
Yeah.
Alice Cooper had Hey Stupid.
It was '91.
'91, so that scraped in. Yeah. But then he didn't have an album. He had one album in the '90s. Last Temptation in '94. Yeah, and then nothing until 2000.
Yeah.
AC/DC, they had one album in the '90s. Yeah, it was a bad fucking period. But it would have been so interesting to see how these bands would have done differently if the landscape hadn't changed, if they'd been able to continue along in the trajectory that they already had established.
The credit you have to give is for bands not like Motley that actually still tried. You don't have to like it, but at least they
gave it a shot.
They still tried to put releases out on a regular basis.
Same with Dio and Ozzy and that as well.
Every band, I don't think many bands actually disappeared. They just they changed the sound. Metallica did it successfully. And
Love or hate it, they did.
Yeah, they managed to grow their brand, but so many other bands either just gave up and disbanded, like Poison or Warrant. You know, they came back 10 years later.
Yeah,
a lot of bands tried to get kicks in.
It becomes a nostalgia thing. But even without the nostalgia thing, Motley Crue tried to grow. They tried new things. Yeah, definitely. They tried it. So you got to credit them for that. They kind of disappeared for me. You know, I didn't listen to New Tattoo.
For everyone, to be honest. Yeah, unless you're a diehard.
Yeah, it wasn't until the Red, White and Crew compilation
that kicked
came
everything off for them again.
And I was in JB Hi-Fi at the time, and they're playing. It's like, fuck, I haven't listened to Motley Crue in ages, and this sounds fucking great.
The tour for that and the Carnival of Sins tour as well.
That was it. But listening to that compilation, you had the songs that you knew, and they snuck in for you, like Black Widow.
Yeah, Black Widow.
And that fit fucking perfectly. So that I'd rate that as a 10. That compilation is probably the best you will get of Motley Crue.
You could probably make a good album out of the bonus tracks they've got out there. Yeah. Like a really good fucking album. You start doing the Black Widow, Primal Scream, all those little bonus tracks.
Some of the bonus tracks were better than what they had out at the time on albums. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yes. It's like they can focus for 1 or 2 songs, but they try and get a whole album out and they get distracted.
ADD for glam.
Yeah.
They needed Ritalin, not cocaine or heroin. They needed Ritalin.
This is the high I've been looking for my whole life.
Hi, this is Nicky Six from ADD. What are we up to right now?
Caesar's fucking letting us know he's here. Yeah. The dog's been going nuts since I got left out. I don't know who inside let him out, but who let the dogs out? That's not the band we're talking about.
Good timing.
That was pretty well done. Do either of you have any more sort of closing thoughts you want to do?
No, I think we closed.
No, we covered
the last
everything.
6 minutes.
Okay, cool. While the dogs lose their mind some more. Look, I think for me personally, love or hate them, they can't be denied.
Yeah.
They've left one fucking hell of a mark on music history. They could have changed music history if they'd have stayed on course. Who knows where it could have gone, but things turned out the way they did. It was really interesting for me to go through it in this process because, you know, you listen to the albums, you know them, but when you go through them back to back to back, people like to hang shit on us for the way we do these things and they don't like our scores and that. But when you listen to albums back to back to back, it changes how you perceive them.
Yeah.
And I think personally, and you may not agree, but I think that it's a good way to do it because you you get the changes and the growth. You get to really analyze things differently. And what I found interesting here was, your perspectives change on things. So albums I thought would go really, really well didn't go as well as I thought. So I thought Dr. Feelgood would be higher for me than it was, because we covered in the reviews, but the high spots versus the low spots, and that was the story for me of most of their albums. You gave one album, the one with Karabi, a 10. But the rest of us sort of got 9, 9.5 maybe. We didn't feel like any album fully deserved a 10, apart from the one, because there was always a track or something that was like, missed it by that much kind of thing. Like that's kind of the story in a lot of respects. Like they have...
When they were on, they were
fucking stratospheric. But they could bottom out just as hard. And that's the learning in doing it this way. For all of that, when you score albums and all that sort of stuff, they may not reflect the emotion and the attachment that you feel. So I understand people rip on us for any scores are given and all that stuff, because, music is subjective. It's the soundtrack of your life, all those sorts of things into it. And so you rate things doing this as, because you listen to them back to back, you compare them to each other and everything else. So it changes the way you do them. But when you listen to it with just putting it on in an emotive context, enjoying it, having fun with it, these albums, even the ones that, that aren't perfect, they stack up ultimately. The lesser lights, maybe not so much, but generally speaking, the solid albums, you may not give them the world's best score, but they're going to be fucking good to put on. You're not going to sort of start skipping through things. You're going to like most of it. And if you want to try and break it down in compilation terms, these guys that have a few, like they could do it like a 4 LP kind of thing and have one of the best of collections of all time, because we've said the highs are fucking monstrous. Like they have written some all-timers. Not many bands get to be household names, and these guys have done it multiple times. And you'd kill for one of these songs. These guys wrote a lot of those songs, which is phenomenal and a testament to the talent and the ability and everyone that worked around them to it as well. Like I said, most bands would kill for any of their hits, and they've had so many hits that have gone so well, it's crazy. Throughout their career, musically and off the stage, they've had a lot of highs and a lot of lows. They've certainly lived the life. I don't know of any band that can compete with them in that regard, to be honest. I think the notoriety, the stories they've got, you sit there and go, even the biggest and the best would struggle to compete with the level of just fucking craziness that this band brought with them. But at the end of the day, like I said in the review, I'm pretty happy with where things are. I don't know if I need another album anymore. I think I'm...
No, not now.
No. Yeah. No. If they'd have done it back then, maybe. I think I'm content with where they are. Yeah. Maybe another EP or something like that, or a couple of bonus tracks to get another compilation if I wanted to. I don't know, I've done a lot now, but I don't know if I need another album. I don't think they can top closing out with Saints of LA. But we'll see what happens. They're getting back together, they're getting on the road again. That said, for all the criticism of seeing them live, I'm probably going to go and see them live again, because they're one of those bands that you love to go and see live, and I think they do a pretty good job overall. And all in all, at the end of the day, these are always fun, and this was one of the ones where I know a lot of the stuff going into it, so it's like...
But they're a spontaneity band live. You don't know what you're going to get. You don't know if they've had a fight during the afternoon,
that's it.
And one of them's pissed off on stage, or they could be awesome, or they could be really shit. That's the element of you don't know what you're going to get.
You still don't know what you're going to get. Yeah, the element of danger is there with this band even today, because you go and see them, it's like, it could fall apart in a heartbeat, and they keep it together somehow. Like there was one show I saw when Nicky was as sick as fuck.
I think I saw that one. That was the last tour.
I forget which one now, to be honest, but he was crook as all shit. He didn't look like himself, but he played out of his skin kind of thing, and it's like you didn't even know until afterwards. He just wasn't that interactive in that, but he nailed it. But yeah, the part in the last tour where they did that little in the round, that was so cool. Yeah. So I would like to see more of that if we just see them live again. But anyway, there's a lot of stuff in this band to go through. We didn't cover it all, like I said at the top, but it's worth going through their collection. Even the lesser lights have some moments in there that are worth checking out, because it does all add to the story of this band. And I think that, for those that like to rip them apart, there's a lot more than meets the eye here. There's a lot of talent and some great fucking songwriting and some great production. And there are some bookmarks in musical history in their career that, fuck.
Well, they lasted as long as they did because they're original.
Yeah, that's true.
There's not another band that sounds like them.
Some have tried and fallen apart.
Yeah, but when you hear it, you know it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're iconic. And
And that's and that said, when it's the original lineup, you know it too.
Yeah.
Like that chemistry is
Yeah.
dysfunctional, but it works. And fuck, well done to them. And well done to you for sitting through us talking about this for as long as we have. It's been an absolutely
11 hours and 26 minutes. So
The cassette
great.
just did a Nicky Six.
but it's been an absolutely
That's a big Mars, actually.
yeah.
That's how Mick's going to be playing guitar. He's
Yeah,
going to
just
be
about.
in a banana lounge and just fucking.
They'll will have
waving
been
away.
bored at some point,
Yeah.
like fucking Hannibal Lecter. Anyway, we're gonna get fucking axed for this. All right, so but yeah, no, thank you to you guys for making the time out. We're getting close to Christmas as we do this one now, so it's the end of the year where it starts to get fucking crazy. But yeah, thank you to you guys for taking the time to do it. And our next special will be in January because we're doing some Christmas stuff. You'll see all that online, but it'll be streamed and that sort of stuff. So our actual filmed and presented special will be in January. It's Mick, you come up with the idea. It's like we're going to call it Battle Bowl, but it's like a King of the Ring kind of a tournament.
Yeah, for those wrestling fans out there that know the context or the format of King of the Ring, which is almost like two wrestlers battle off until you win through to get to the final. We're going to do that with two albums, two iconic or two classic albums. You know, it could be an Appetite for Destruction versus a Dr. Feelgood, for example. And we're going to see who's going to win through, and then we'll probably do a special on that, an episode or a half-hour special or something
we'll do
like
some
that.
stuff around it, yeah.
We'll do something with it. I mean, if it wins, it should probably get its own belt.
Yeah.
You know?
Our equivalent of like the heavyweight title.
Yeah, it should be like a piece of string. With,
I'll get a
with
shoestring.
you know.
A shoestring budget to go with it.
You know, from Kmart. So,
Man, it's
but yeah,
fucking
that's
something
basically what
to
we're going to
polish
be doing. We're going to be doing 6 albums, I think, or thereabouts.
I'll do a bit more because we're going to do
8 albums. It could
8,
be 29 albums. I don't know.
It's going to be either 8 or 16. I'm probably going to do 8.
Okay.
I think 16
so it'll
will
be
much.
46 albums, and it'll be a battle that'll go through until
4 o'clock in the morning.
COVID 2024 starts.
Yeah, just about.
Yeah.
But you know, it's an interesting concept. We're going to find some themes to stick with it, and stay tuned for more information on that as it comes up. But that's the one for January coming up.
Yeah.
But a big thank you to everyone for tuning in. Make sure you follow us. Our details are in the description of the post of this one. So make sure you like, follow, subscribe, share, give us your thoughts and all this. Your feedback is welcome. Even if you disagree with us, we like hearing what you think. And a big thank you, of course, to our fantastic sponsors in Squidding, Screen Printing, Old Cult and Rockstar Finance. Their details, just like ours, are in the description of the episode. So please make sure you give them a like, give them a follow, whatever you can in social, just to show them some love for the help they give us here to do what we do. Mm-hmm. But I think that about wraps us up, unless there's anything else that anyone wants to...
No, we're good.
No?
No, that's it. It's been good.
Yeah,
it's been good
fun.
to see you guys again.
You too. It's our third
Yeah.
time on this set in about 2 years. And this is a new set, obviously. It's the first time we filmed on this particular set.
Yeah, I think it's
turned
out pretty good.
Yeah.
Yes.
But there's more to come very, very soon. Until next time, though, I'm Andrew.
I'm Mick.
I'm Dave.
As always,
Drink up.
Rock on.
oh, you nearly
Shout
forgot.
at the devil.
Cool. Thanks for joining us tonight, mate. Good to see you.
That's all right. No, I was just you said Motley Crue. I think it's my first live band experience when I was a young boy.
Nice.
So I went and dug out my tour guide back in 1990, Dr. Feelgood. So I thought I'd get that out.
There we go.
Nice.
I didn't know if you go on the camera. I didn't get to show the tour guide, Andrew, if you wanted the pictures of that. So I think I've got I'll flip the camera around here.
That's all right.
Got the original Dr. Feelgood tour guide from there back in World Tour 89-90. So I was fortunate enough to hold on to that for the last 30 years, and I got another from their final tour. I managed to get that when I went to the second show. So first show I was in the pit and everything, hot and sweaty leaving it, so I didn't want to have it down the floor with me. So when I went back second night, I ended up going out to take home with me. So I said, oh, it's good to have it there. But yeah, I said, bought my son a drum kit for his birthday early this week, and we've been watching Tommy videos today to get him in the spirit of he's going to be a drummer. So.